Okay, this sounds like a scene out of a horror movie, but it's part of a real-life case that just happened in the Philippines. December 10th, 2021, so this is pretty recent. 17-year-old Janice is hiding under her bed. There were 3 masked men that had broken into the family home. They're going room to room, attacking anyone that they stumble across. Janice is hiding underneath her bed, literally a horror movie. Janice managed to slide under the bed, but she had no idea when the door to her room would open, when they would walk in, if they would even see her. Maybe, I don't know, maybe they would drag her out by her ankles. She didn't make any noise. She can't make any noise. She obviously can't call the emergency service lines. She doesn't even want to talk. She's terrified. So she starts texting her family group chat, hoping her parents would read it and maybe they would send help. They would come to save her. Her parents are both at work. She's home alone with her 2 siblings, and she starts texting the group chat. 3 masked men enter the house. They're attacking us. Please, please help. I can hear them screaming. They're hurting us, please. That was at 2:48 p.m. Janice could hear her siblings scream for help, and she was getting no response from her parents. Maybe they didn't see it yet. They were at work. So she didn't know what else to do or who else to turn to. I mean, think about it. Like, how quickly do your friends respond to your texts? So instead, at 3 p.m., so just about 12 minutes later, Janice, as quietly and as quickly as her sweaty fingers allow her to, she posts on Facebook. Guys, help me, please. Someone broke into the house. Help, please. I don't want to die. I'm here inside a room hiding right now. Please, please help. And then she heard footsteps approaching her door, her bedroom door. She didn't know if it was a parent, a police officer, or maybe it was the 3 masked men. Her father would later come home to find 2 of his 3 children dead. Always, full show notes are available at rottenmangopodcast.com. This case is pretty recent. It's based in the Philippines, and a lot of the sources were a mix of Tagalog and English. I did get a Tagalog speaker to help translate and help with the research, but of course, there are still things I think that can get lost in translation. If you guys know anything about this case that I didn't mention today, please let us know. And with that being said, let's get into the very, very strange case that everyone is comparing to a very specific Hollywood horror movie. Like one of the most iconic horror movies. Because this case is truly one of those instances where you think, you're like, I know where this is going, and then it just keeps getting worse and worse and worse. So let's go back to December 10th, 2021, really quick. Clearly, this is a crucial day. This is the day that Janice is hiding under her bed. And immediately, the beginning of the day was off to a memorable start, a good start. It was the first time that Janice called the McGuads, her parents, McGuad, Mr. and Mrs. McGuad, mom and dad. They were leaving for work. They were kissing the kids on the cheek, and she called them mom and dad. I mean, I'm sure they told her for a while now that she can call them whatever she feels comfortable with, but she finally called them mom and dad. That's a huge day for any adoptive parent. You feel accepted. You feel like you earned this child's trust. You earned the title. I imagine Mr. McGuad, Cruz, his first name is Cruz, went to work just smiling, like ear to ear, split grin. He just seemed really excited about this and about the family that he was working so hard for. So while he's at work, his coworker opens the door. He's a teacher, so opens the door to his classroom, pops his head in, and is like, don't freak out, Mr. McGuad. Don't panic, but your house has been ransacked. You need to go home now. Mr. McGuad panicked. He freaked out. He runs out of the office. I think it took him about 15 minutes to get into his car, drive all the way home from the school, and there was no context given to him about what his coworker said. All he knew is that his house was ransacked and his 3 kids were at home, or they were supposed to be at home. He's terrified. He can't care less about the damn house. He just needs to get home for his kids, okay? He forgot his house key in the hurry because when he jumps out of the car, he runs to the front door and he doesn't have the key. He's shaking the handle. It's locked. He's pushing up against the door. It's still locked. It's not budging. So he decides, I gotta try another door. He turns to leave the front door and he looks down because there's like a crunch underneath his feet. He realizes that at the front of the front door, just on the floor, is a blood-soaked blanket and a knife. The handle of the knife was also missing. So he tries...
Just the blade part?
Yeah, just the blade part. I imagine, and this is speculative, but I imagine that would happen if you were using the knife to do like very severe things for the handle to break off. Mm-hmm. There must be a lot of force applied in some sort of direction. I don't think anyone came in with just a knife blade. So he tries the front door again, and this time there's a stronger sense of, panic and distress after what he saw. He's banging on the doors, shouting his kids' names. 3 kids, nothing. The door won't even budge. So he runs around the house to the back door and he's still screaming his kids' names like Gwen, boy, it's a nickname, Janice. And so he's running around the house to the back. There wasn't even a single scream coming from inside the house. It was eerily quiet. He gets to the back door, yanks it open. Thankfully, it's unlocked. And this is when Mr. McGuad realizes he's got to protect his kids. Okay, so of course, any father wants to immediately run into the house and scream his kids' names and frantically just look for them, making sure that they're alive. But he's thinking, if there's an attacker, if they're maybe holding my kids hostage so that they can't scream and shout, I got to be quiet and maybe I can at least sneak up on the attacker. That's what he's thinking. He's like, maybe I can knock them out. So as quietly as possible, he starts tiptoeing through the kitchen. And the minute he steps into the living room, his entire life, at least how he knew it, just ended in that moment. The entire living room was painted red with blood. You couldn't even see the floor. That's how much blood there was. Broken vases that were knocked over. There were glass shards everywhere. Blankets were soaked in blood. They were just thrown around. Even things that didn't belong in the kitchen, like pans, pots, baseball bats, they were just in the center of all of this, and they were covered and soaked in blood. And in the middle were the bodies of 2 of his 3 children. They had been murdered. Whoever did this was clearly sick and deranged and angry. I mean, the injuries on the McGuad kids were really bad. One of them was even missing an ear. It had been severed off. Now, one of his children did manage to survive. But they were incredibly distraught, obviously. They had been hiding under the bed when the attack took place, and they heard everything, every noise coming from downstairs. In what was supposed to be one of the best days of Cruz McGuad's life, it was now like a living nightmare. Every time he closed his eyes, all he would see are the 2 kids laying in the living room. Before we get into who survived, how it happened, I need to give you a breakdown of the McGuad family. And it starts with 4 McGuads. The 2 McGuad parents, Cruz and Lavella, and their now teenage kids, Gwen and Louie. So it's the 4 of them. Until one day, Gwen and Louie, they're both teenagers, they come home. They're like, Mom, Dad, we gotta talk to you about something. They sit their parents down and in like the most professional Shark Tank proposal, concise, calm, well thought out presentation, they're telling their parents why they need a 5th member of the family, why they need to adopt Gwen's best friend, Janice. It kind of sounds crazy. It's like, no, we're not just going to adopt your best friend so that you can have a never-ending sleepover. That's not how life works. But the kids are like, Mom, hear me out. She's an orphan. She's been bouncing around from house to house. She is working as a live-in nanny right now, and she's never going to have a future like this. She hasn't even been able to go to school or study or have a childhood. She's constantly working. And then the minute that the family decides they don't need a nanny anymore, she's going to be out on the streets. She's 17. She was forced to grow up when she was like 5 years old. Please, please, please. Can we just let her move into our house? And she said that she would cook and clean and do the laundry and all of this. And we don't even have to pay her. She just wants to feel safe. Please, 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 please. Parents are like, okay, wow, this is really intense.
Do you know how old they are?
Yes, Louis, the boy, is 16, and Gwen just turned 18.
Oh, okay.
So they're all teenagers, yeah. Like teens, yeah. And the parents are like, I don't know, guys. We don't even have a spare room. The 16-year-old Louis, the boy, is like, well, I could just sleep on the couch. Like, I'll give up my room.
Wow.
I mean, a 16-year-old boy to give up his room, that's very, very selfless. He's like, come on, guys. Like, you always told us we have to help our friends in need. Like, come on, Mom, Dad. They're begging, and they're like, let us have a private conversation about this, because this is a lot. And the few points that they keep coming back to as adults are, Gwen's friend Janice was just a kid, just like their kids. She deserved a fighting chance at life. They had seen her around and yeah, she looked miserable. Also in the Philippines, just like everywhere else in the world, when a young woman doesn't have the proper resources or support system, there's a very real risk that they might end up on the street. And once that happens, it's very likely that she could potentially be forced into work or worse. And even just the thought and threat of that looming over Janice's head, I mean, as parents, that's heartbreaking. Like, this kid is growing up knowing that this could happen to her at any moment. Just like one choice from somebody else. She has no control over her life, no safety net. The McGuad parents decide, maybe we can take the burden off of Janice. She's just a kid. She shouldn't have to worry about making sure that she has enough food and shelter. So the McGuads are very religious. They thought, you know what? Maybe the Lord has blessed us with enough to provide for our family and a little bit more, because maybe we were meant to provide for Janice. Look, the McGuads are incredible people. I mean, there are so many families with even more than what the McGuads had, and they probably wouldn't agree to this, but they were just not normal people. So the McGuad family, they went from 4 to 5 members. They formally adopted Janice into the family, like legal papers and everything. So let's talk about each one of the family members. Mr. McGuad, Cruz, the father. He worked as an elementary school teacher, and it seemed like his career path was on the right track. He was spoken very highly of, constantly getting recognized for his good work. There was a promotion in the works, so he was doing well financially as well. And his wife, Novella, she was the principal at the same elementary school. So the two of them, they don't make like an insane amount of money. They're school teachers, they're a principal, but they were considered more privileged in their town. They owned land, which is a huge deal. They're able to support their kids. They didn't have to choose between putting food on the table for the night or turning the lights on. A lot of families around them, unfortunately, had to make a choice between the two. Now, the two kids, Louis McGuad, nicknamed Boy Boy, he's the youngest. He's the 16-year-old. He's like the charismatic one in the family. He's calm, but he has this like energy when you meet him. You're already spilling your life secrets, like your deepest fears, what you want to become one day, and you're like, why did I just tell this random boy that I just met all my deepest fears in life? I think he was just very warm and comforting. People felt inclined to open up to him when they saw him. He also never judged anyone. In fact, he would find a way to relate to you so that you don't feel alone or weird. So he's 16 at this point, and he tells his parents, I'm going to continue working hard at school, and I'm going to grow up, and I'm going to be a lawyer. This is a huge commitment to make at 16 years old, but he was down for it. Okay, I don't know, just reading about Louis, he seems like the type that I would be very intrigued by. Like, he's very smart, but he's also very creative. He plays the guitar, he likes to read and draw. So that's Louis, the youngest of the family, Boy Boy. His older sister's name is Gwen, and she was really the studious one, like the super smart one. Like, Louis is smart, but Gwen is intense. For example, she was a Girl Scout as a kid. And you know how they have those, like, sashes that they wear? Her sash was filled with badges and pins. There wasn't even a single space left for an extra pin. She completed every level of the Girl Scouts program in her free time, basically for fun. And she's like, wow, I kind of need more challenge. So in high school, she enrolls for this pre-med prep school at the local university for high schoolers. She's like, I'm going to grow up and be a doctor. So I don't know what the McGuads did, but they've raised their kids right. Like, one wants to be a lawyer, one wants to be a doctor, and they're both really upstanding, moral kids. She also volunteered in her free time. Okay, I swear, she's like a college acceptance administrator's dream candidate. And yeah, I probably want her to be my doctor, okay? She's really approachable. If you happen to be at a gathering of any sort, like a party, you're feeling extra shy, uncomfortable. You're like, I don't know, a single person here, I'm so nervous. She would sit with you and keep you company the whole time. Okay, you know how some people will come and sit with you and they'll chat you up, but the minute that someone more interesting comes in or a friend of theirs comes in, they ditch you. They're like, okay, bye, have a good one. Gwen was not like that. She would sit there until you were comfortable. She would be there with you the whole freaking time. That's how she meets Janice, her best friend, and now adopted sister. The McGuads are really well liked, and they're constantly being invited to these social gatherings. Now, one of their close family friends had a live-in nanny that would tag along to all these dinners and parties and just kind of run after the family's kids. So she's a live-in nanny for one of the McGuads' family friends. So she's brought to these parties on a working basis. You know, she's running around looking for the little kids that she's supposed to watch. And there's a bunch of other teenagers there that are just teenagers, like Gwen and Louie. They're there because it's fun and it's a Saturday, but she's working. And Gwen noticed her on more than one occasion. Mainly because, you know, Gwen's like, she looks like my age. She must be my age, but wow, she's working. So Gwen strikes up a conversation with her, and they instantly click. Janice is a year younger. She's 17. Gwen just turned 18. And the two of them are like attached at the hip after the first time they start talking. Their favorite thing to do, this is like their go-to. Whenever Janice could get off work for a few hours, they would come up with these elaborate photo shoot sets. And they would like hang up sheets in the backyard and do these fancy little backgrounds. They would set up the little string lights. They would try to time it with golden hour. And then they would do each other's makeup and hair. And they would spend hours just goofing around trying to take pictures of each other. They also really enjoyed filming TikToks together, just of them dancing. It's really cute. It seems like they're really close friends. They kind of look a little shy doing the dances, but Louis is really cute and charming. Okay, in a way that little brothers typically seem to be. He's like sticking his hairy leg out to block the girls when they're dancing, and they're all like laughing and swatting his leg away. So the three of them, they look very comfortable with each other. So it's like once they're comfortable, Gwen feels like she can finally ask, you know, the question like, why are you living nanny for this family? Like, you don't seem to enjoy it. Do you need to make money for your parents? Like, what's going on? You can tell me, or if you don't want to, you don't have to tell me. Janice opens up and she says, well, I don't have parents. And she starts walking Gwen through her life story, and it's pretty heartbreaking. Janice said her first real memory started when she was like 8 years old. Before that, she doesn't really remember much. She just remembers she's 8, and a stranger found her wandering around a ship by herself, like a giant boat. Not even like a cruise, like I'm talking like a shipping container boat. Her parents were nowhere to be found. I don't know, they may have lost her, but more likely Janice believes that they just completely abandoned her. The stranger was nice and thankfully not a child predator, because they helped post Janice's name and picture on Facebook. Okay, I don't know if that's a good idea, but you get it. And they were posting on online forums to see if her parents were looking for her. Nobody ever responded. Finally, Janice is dropped off at the Philippines version of CPS, the Department of Social Welfare and Development. We're just going to call it DWSD. And that's where Janice stayed. So she's bouncing around from home to home. And then recently, she was offered a job as a live-in nanny for this young family. And she took it. Okay, so she hates the job. She hates it. But don't get me wrong, she's so grateful for this opportunity. I mean, to have like a family take her in and let her live with them, that's a great job. You know, it's sad though. She like gets to see these young kids live this amazing life with a family that care about her. She sees Gwen and all the teenagers at the gatherings being, you know, teenagers. They have stress, but it's different. They have parents to comfort them. She told Gwen one of the things that she wished for the most growing up. She just wished that she could run around with kids. She wished that when she was running around, she would fall down, scrape her knee, and she could just have a mom to run to that would hug her and put her on her lap and blow on her knee and tell her, it's okay, I got you. I mean, even now, Janice said she wished that all she had to worry about was getting good grades and getting accepted into college and not getting fired and being without a home and having nothing to fend for herself. So Gwen is really emotional when she hears Janice's story. I mean, for one, she had come to see Janice as her sister. So to hear about how hard her life was, I mean, it was rough. But another reason was, I'm sure it touched on the privilege that Gwen felt like she had, to know that she was lucky enough that she could always depend on her parents to be there. So like, side note, Gwen's parents, they're not like free-for-all parents. They're not showering her with amazing, luxurious items and like letting her do whatever she wants. Just because they were doing okay didn't mean that they were spoiling the kids. Each member of their family, they had their own set of chores. Everyone had to pitch in. The kids had to study. They had to get good grades. Everyone had to be responsible. They had to go to church on Sundays. Like, there were a lot of rules. They were actually pretty strict parents. But Gwen and Louis had come to really respect their parents for that. They really were raised really, really well. Like, I think the fact that Gwen and Louis are even comfortable enough to ask their parents to adopt Janice, that just shows you how tight they are, how close they are. So Janice moves in. She gets formally adopted, okay? She moves into Louis' room. He moves out. He's permanently on couch duty now. And from the moment that Janice moves in, everyone treats her like family. They wanted her to feel like at home. They enrolled her in a school immediately. I mean, she had all this room to breathe now. She didn't wake up every single morning to worry about work and putting food on the table. She was just a kid. She said for the first time she had the luxury of daydreaming about her future. Like what her dreams are going to be, what she wants to be when she grows up. She had never done that before. So after moving in, the three siblings, they get closer and closer. They kept doing their photo shoots, hanging out all the time. Janice even went on vacation with the McGuad family for the first time. So really close. Now, I do want to make it clear. Not everything was sunshine and rainbows. I'm sure any adoptive parent will tell you that it's freaking hard when a new child has to get accustomed to their like new environment, learn the rules, and even just to trust the adoptive parents. It's a long process. There's this long, hard grace period you have to go through, and it's completely normal for there to be hiccups along the way. You just have to be open about it, which the McGuads were. I really do think that them being educators helped them in this whole process. They were always patient and understanding. So Janice's first hiccup came a few months after her adoption. The McGuad family had land and a few pigs that they were raising on this land. So they have little pigsters. And Cruz sold one of these pigs for about $200 US. He takes a little cash, it's a bunch of small bills. He puts it in a little cash jar in the primary bedroom because he knew that I don't know, maybe he'll need it for an emergency one day. The same month, his elderly parents test positive for COVID. Now, in the Philippines in 2021, there were these quarantine facilities that you have to go to. So at least in this area. So his parents, they're being quarantined in a government facility and they would need money for food and supplies while they were stuck in there. Cruz is like, okay, perfect. I knew that $200 was going to come in handy. He runs to grab it from his little glass jar and it's freaking empty. It's gone. He's like, that's so weird. So he asks his wife, hey babe, like, have you seen the money? She's like, no, why would I touch the money? He asks his kids and they're like, no, I haven't seen the freaking pig money. Like, why would what? He's like, okay, well, do you guys know where it would be? Everyone's shrugging. They have no idea. They all start helping Cruz search for the missing money. Cruz even wondered if maybe thieves had gotten into the house to take the money, but that didn't make sense because nothing else was stolen. And usually someone was home, so wouldn't they have known? They also have these big dogs that bark like crazy at strangers. So he's genuinely puzzled by this. He's like, this is a case of missing money. This is mind-boggling to me. The family look around for hours. You know, the family is doing well enough to feed the kids and everyone. They're financially stable to a degree, but they don't just have a ton of extra money laying around. So Cruz really was counting on this $200 to give to his parents. He needed it. They're doing everything. Couch cushions, under the refrigerator, under the stove. They're turning over all of the rugs. And one of the kids picks up Janice's backpack. Not because they think it's in Janice's backpack, but to search the ground underneath Janice's backpack. Her backpack was suspiciously heavy. Again, he had received small bills for the sale of the pig, including, I believe, like heavier coins maybe. And so it's not just like two $100 bills. They're like, oh, that's weird because we're doing remote learning. We don't really have a lot of textbooks in our bags right now. So they thought, what the hell? Why is her backpack so heavy? But they didn't accuse her. They just kind of glanced at Janice. And she saw the kid, her sibling, holding her backpack. And it was just, the look of guilt was so clear on her face. It was clear as day. She confesses. Turns out Janice had a secret compartment that she made in her backpack. So you know the bottom flap of your backpack, you open it up and you look inside and you're like, oh, and that's the bottom of the backpack. Well, she undid the seam, created a little empty space between the fabric and the actual inner lining of the bottom of the backpack, hid the cash in there, sewed it back on, basically creating a false bottom for her backpack. Very crafty. But the crazy thing is, and this is why I'm like, I don't know if I can be a parent because it takes so much patience and understanding. Because I'd be like, why'd you do that? That's crazy. But Cruz wasn't even angry. He was disappointed. He's human. And her new family, they all looked at her confused and disappointed. But Janice was breaking down. She's like, I'm so sorry. I don't even know why I did that. Like, I know you probably hate me now. It's awful. I'm so sorry for stealing from you. Please, like, I totally get it. If you want to kick me out of the house, if you want me gone, like, I get it if you never trust me again. But please, I'm just so sorry. I really don't know why I did that. The McGuards were hurt, but they also kind of understood. So Janice had grown up with nothing. She didn't have the security that the McGuad kids had grown up with. And side note, stealing is actually very common in families with recent adoptees, especially with money and food. It comes from the child's scarcity mindset. So, think about it. If you never know where your next meal or money for your next meal or even shoes or socks is coming from, and now you're suddenly in a place with an abundance of food, of course you're gonna think, I should probably grab some more so I can save it for later when I inevitably need it again. There's no way you're just going to take it for granted immediately and be like, this is my life now, unlimited food. These children truly believe this family's going to let them go, they're going to face scarcity again, and they need to stock up. I know it's messed up that she stole the money, but it's kind of heartbreaking when you think about the psychology of why an adopted child might steal from their new families. So yeah, the McGuads were disappointed, but they got it. They understood. And it didn't matter to them because it's like when your kid makes a mistake, what do? They're still your kid. And Janice is their kid. That's how they thought about it. Janice is our daughter. Of course, we're not going to turn our backs on her because she did something wrong. She just needs guidance. So after this little hiccup, the family focuses on rebuilding that trust. And it wasn't this, Janice, you made us lose our trust in you, so earn it back. It was more so the McGuads trying to comfort Janice, to reaffirm in her belief that they're family now and she never has to worry about food for as long as all of them live because she's family. After this incident, the family actually come out stronger than before and more bonded together. Gwen started tutoring Janice when everything went into remote learning. And December 10th of 2021, before the McGuad parents left for work, Janice turned to them and called them mom and dad. It was supposed to be a very, very, very good day. But there was a problem. Janice, their adopted daughter, whom they thought was legally categorized as an orphan, meaning without parents. Well, it turns out, Janice wasn't even an orphan. In fact, she was regularly communicating with her mom on Facebook.
What?
So what the hell is going on here? Back to the day of the murder, December 10th of 2021. I'm not sure how Cruz's coworker knew that the family home had been ransacked. Maybe he saw Janice's Facebook post or someone he knew had seen it. But Cruz rushes home, finds 2 of his children dead in the living room. He tries to check if there was anything, a small pulse or anything, but there was nothing. It said Cruz dropped to the ground and he cried out. He's religious. He cried out, "Lord, why did you have to take both of them? Why do I have to lose both of them? Why?" And then he collects himself as best as he can because he's still a father. He has to look for his 3rd child. So he's scrambling and he's praying that he wouldn't stumble across another dead body. And he calls her name out and finally he hears like the creaking of a door, like, you know, when you crack it open. And he hears her voice and he screams, "Janice!" And he runs to her room and he's putting his hands on her head and shoulders and arms. And he's frantically checking all over her to see if like she's hurt. She wasn't hurt, but she's dripping wet. And for a split second, he was panicked that it was blood. But it wasn't. It was water. We're going to come back to this
His
detail.
clothing too?
Her hair is like soaking wet in water. He made sure that she was okay, rushed them out, and he kept asking her, "Are you sure you're okay? Are you hurt? Why is your hair wet? Are you sure it's not blood? Are you bleeding anywhere?" Janice is like hyperventilating. She's explaining 3 men came into the house. They attacked Gwen and Boy Boy. She had enough time to run into her room. She hid under the bed. She was so terrified. The screams were so loud. There were so many screams. She was so scared. She knew that she couldn't help her siblings and she didn't know what to do or how to even do it. And then finally it went silent. She didn't know what to do. She was so stressed. She was having a panic attack. So the only thing that she could think to do in the moment was take a bath.
Take a bath?
Yeah, okay, so this whole bath thing is interesting, but we're gonna come back to it, okay? It's just very odd, because, you know, I know what you're thinking, and maybe we're on the same page, let me know, but I feel like a bath is very vulnerable. Like, when you're in a bath, you're naked and in a slippery, wet tub, defenseless. It just feels like the last thing you want to do in a situation where your environment doesn't feel secure. But again, people grieve differently. They respond to shock differently. Maybe she was in a state of shock where even her brain wasn't registering because, you know, our brains like to protect ourselves.
Yeah, I can't imagine like bath and shower, because even shower, like you close your eyes, you're in the water, you can't hear things well.
And then you got to get the towel. Like that's a horror movie.
And then bath too. It's just not, none of that makes sense.
And then the water filling up the tub is really loud typically. And it takes a while and you're like, oh my God, I'm so nervous. So Cruz comforts her. And honestly, he stayed strong for her because 2 of his children are dead. He keeps it together so that she doesn't break down further. He felt like she had already been through enough. Mrs. Magard Lavella arrives at the scene just after the police, and she sees Janice standing there, soaking wet, crying. And she rushes up, she hugs her, and she's like, "Oh my God, thank God you're okay. Are you all right? What happened? Where are Gwen and Boy Boy?" Cruz was the one to tell his wife and the mother of his children that their 2 kids were dead. Mrs. Magard Lavella is an elementary school principal. She was very loved for being this soft-spoken person. When you're an elementary school principal, you have to be calm, collected. You have to know what to do in the event of a crisis. You have to know how to handle these things. Kids, parents, staff, literally everyone trusted her to know what to do in every situation. But in this situation, there's like no answer. There's no solution. And it said that Mrs. Magwad completely broke down in every sense of the word. She was a broken woman and a broken mother. And I think Cruz, seeing his wife break down to the core like this, he had been holding it in for Janice. I think just seeing the devastation in his wife, he broke down. And so the 3 of them, they're outside the house crying in each other's arms, and the Magwad house was taped off as a crime scene. The police were really busy inside. They found like an abundance of evidence in the living room, just scattered everywhere. There were a few different things that could have been used as murder weapons. So there was this bloody baseball bat, a hammer, a few kitchen knives, including the one near the front door, pans, pots, shattered glass bottles, and they had to log all the evidence, take it all in, and they tried to match the weapons with the injuries on the siblings. Gwen had been stabbed to death, And it seemed very personal. And we know this through all the cases that we've covered over the years, but when a killer stabs a person in the face, it's typically incredibly, incredibly personal. There is a level of hatred and cruelty, and oftentimes it can indicate that it comes from a place of jealousy. Like, that's typically when you see that extensive injuries on the face. And her chest and abdomen, but a lot of wounds on her face, which you don't see necessarily in all stabbing cases. So the chest and the abdomen and sometimes the back, those are pretty common areas.
Yeah, because face is not to kill, right?
Face is just so personal. And again, to ruin someone's face, a lot of experts believe it stems from jealousy. So keep it in mind later. Gwen was stabbed multiple times, just face, chest, abdomen. She was missing an ear. She had wounds all over her arms and hands, indicating that she fought till her very last breath. Her hair was completely matted with dried blood. Louis' body was just as bad. The police counted 51 stab wounds on his body. Let me repeat that. 51 stab wounds on a 16-year-old's body. How can anyone ever hate a 16-year-old so much to stab them, I mean, even once, but 51 times? Like, it doesn't make sense. Their bodies were so badly damaged, the morgue workers had to physically sew the teenagers back together before their parents could hold a funeral. The investigators that were looking into the case, their initial working theory is that, okay, attackers came into the McGuad house since, they're going off of Janice's statements as well as the evidence. Maybe the attackers, they were looking to target one of the better off families in the area. They most likely thought that the house was going to be empty, but they came across the 3 McGuad children and all hell broke loose. That was the running theory. That was the very initial theory. But when they're taking log of everything at the crime scene, just laying around in plain sight, there are so many objects of value. TVs, phones, laptops. I mean, if these are thieves that are willing to kill teenagers, innocent children, I feel like they would steal on their way out. And it's not like they were hearing police sirens on their way. So very quickly, the angle of burglary gone wrong, it was dropped. The next runner-up as a theory was a family dispute over land. So Lavella had siblings, and there have been reports prior that Lavella and her siblings had gotten into these fights over land. Maybe some of the siblings were jealous enough to hurt the McGuads. Maybe they thought that they could get the McGuads to hand over some land if their children were now dead. But the evidence wasn't adding up with that either. I'm sure the police checked the alibis and the motives because in the end they ruled that theory out too. So now they're out of options. The family, the public, they all want answers. I mean, this is terrifying to every single family in the area. I think whenever children are involved, it's a huge, huge deal. And like, don't even get me started on what's going on in the US. But, when even children aren't safe, you feel like, what is wrong with society? Like, we need to do something drastic now. People are demanding answers and change. Like, they're in their homes. So the police, they form a special investigations unit focused on this crime, and the mayor puts up a reward for $5,000 for anyone with information that would lead to the arrest of the attackers. Meanwhile, the police go back to the crime scene. They're like, we got to search through everything again. This is how we're going to break this case wide open. They bring in forensics teams. They're combing through the place. And I'm not sure why they didn't follow up with some of these leads to begin with, but they finally decide, we gotta search the perimeter of the house. Not just inside the house, not just the living room, but like outside. And it's not just the backyard. They're going a little bit further than that. They're expanding their search scope. And that's when they come across this irrigation creek near the McGuad house. So it's like a small pond. And I guess since they weren't looking for a body or even a murder weapon, they just didn't think to search it until later. They got incredibly lucky. There in the creek was a little plastic bag. It felt like someone had tried to throw it down the creek and they assumed the water would carry it out, but the plastic bag got caught on a tree branch. So it's just stuck, swaying in the water. They drag it out and inside are bloody clothes. The killers after the murder had taken the time to change their clothes, put it in a little plastic baggie, tie it up, and throw it into the creek. Okay, now they're getting somewhere. So with this in mind, they're feeling a boost of confidence, okay? They start combing through the McGuad family house again, and they're searching for anything at all that might seem even remotely suspicious. Meanwhile, the netizens, they're doing their own little investigation. And, the police, they explored the burglary gone wrong theory, the land dispute theory, but there was one theory that nobody really wanted to be the first to say. Do you know what I mean? It just feels almost politically incorrect. It feels wrong. It feels cancelable to be like, we think the survivor did it. Like, even just saying that, that's crazy, right? I mean, normally I'm like, don't say it then. If you think you're going to get canceled, don't say it because you're probably, like, don't come up with these theories.
Wait, did people think of that right away?
Yeah, like, netizens were like, I don't really want to say it. They're trying to, like, come up with roundabout ways of being like, well, there's a few parts. Nobody wants to be like, I think the survivor killed them. The netizens did have some strong points, though. And normally I'm against these types of theories because more often than not, they're not true and it just ends up hurting the survivor even more. But I'm going to walk you through some of the biggest points of contention. Point 1, the freaking bath. The bath, okay, this was the weirdest part. This is the part in the case where immediately my little radars are going off. Like, it's very strange. When Cruz, the father, found her in her room after he found his 2 children murdered in the living room, he was just so happy that she was alive. He was so happy that she wasn't injured, but she's soaking wet. And she explains to him, once the screams of her siblings stopped, she took a bath because she was so nervous. Again, what an oddly vulnerable position to put yourself in when there were just 3 homicidal attackers in your home. I think that's even a nightmare to most people. Being in a bath when intruders break in. You just don't feel safe and secured. That's why when you're like showering, you're trying to open your eyes and you're like, I gotta keep looking. Even Cruz said, when I heard that and when the shock of my kids passing wore off, I just couldn't stop thinking about that part. He didn't want to, but he couldn't help but wonder, like, why? Like, wouldn't a more natural reaction to be either run to your siblings' bodies, keep hiding under the bed until someone found you, or maybe even run out of the house? Netizens speculated in a very roundabout way initially that she took a shower to get all the blood off of her after she stabbed her siblings. And again, Louis was stabbed 51 times. That's just on his body. That's not including the injuries on Gwen's. Another point of contention was the fact that Janice didn't come downstairs when she heard Cruz yelling their names. The house isn't massive, and from where her bedroom was, I mean, she could hear him banging on the front door, screaming the kids' names, running around to the back of the house. She didn't even scream back. She didn't alert him that she was in the house. Nothing. She stayed hidden, and she didn't come out until she heard him come across his children's bodies in the living room. But there's bigger points to be made. The third point is the room that Janice hid in was ransacked. She said the attackers entered the room and they just didn't see her hiding under the bed, and they ransacked her entire room. I don't know. It's just kind of weird. And the house really isn't that big, so if she ran away when the attackers were already inside the house, wouldn't at least one of the 3 attackers had seen her run to her room? And one of the first places you would check is underneath the bed. Mm-hmm. So they just go into her room, ransack the room, and think, you know what? I'm sure she's not going to tell anyone what happened. It's weird. Also, she stated that she locked herself in the room and then hid under the bed. If the door was locked from the inside, how did the room get turned inside out? There were also droplets of blood that were inside of her room. And so she's arguing, yeah, because the attackers came into the room and ransacked the place, of course there's going to be droplets of blood because they were probably covered in blood, because look at how graphic the crime scene is. But it just wasn't making any sense. Then the last point of contention was Janice sent the message to her family group chat at 2:48 p.m., remember? After the autopsy, police discovered that the McGuad siblings' time of death was closer to 2 p.m. So what happened during those 50 minutes? This next one is a bit more speculative, but I'm still going to go over it. A lot of netizens were wondering how she was able to post a Facebook post spelled 100% correctly and including emojis. So the Facebook post begging for help because there were intruders in the house, that post included emojis. Just kind of strange. And on top of that, just a few minutes after posting on Facebook, she changed the last name to her profile to P, P-E-E. We don't know what P is. Her birth last name is Sibiel, and her adoptive last name is McGuad. I don't know what Janice P is.
Wait, after she made a post, she changed her last name?
Yeah. So you're telling me you're hiding under the bed and there's 3 knife-wielding attackers downstairs murdering your siblings, and you're like, I need to update my Facebook name, right now. I wonder, okay, this is, again, speculation time, but maybe in her 17-year-old mind, she thought that if her name wasn't Janice McGuad, the police couldn't find her profile. So, I think maybe she thinks the police are going to go and be like, oh, you know what? Let me just investigate this whole family. And, okay, Janice McGuad types it in Facebook. There's no Janice McGuad.
Was it Janice McGuad before?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. She's trying to hide her name.
I mean, that's all they can think of in a 17-year-old's head. Because obviously, they're going to find you regardless.
Yeah, okay.
But I'm trying to think like a 17-year-old because it's so random. For now, these are just netizen theories and arguments. Meanwhile, the police would find droplets of blood in rooms of the house that just didn't make sense. Like the laundry room. There were droplets of blood there. But the laundry room shows no sign of struggle or anything. So the killers just walked in there, splattered some blood around from their clothes, and then walked out. Now, the police believe that they do an exhaustive search of the house and the crime scene tape comes down. And the McGuads were allowed back into their home to clean and tidy up. And I guess figure out what they wanted to do with the place. Mrs. McGuad felt like a zombie in this house. So while the police were investigating, all she did was cry and grieve and scream and then crawl up in a ball and then wait for the wave of emotions to hit again. And now she's back in the house. She's like, I just want to stay busy so that these floodgates don't open. She starts tidying up the areas and she starts with Janice's room. It's been ransacked. So this is Louis' old room. Mrs. McGuad starts going through and cleaning up and she stumbles across an ID. She's never seen this ID before. It doesn't belong to her children. She rushes to hand it over to the police, and since the ID belonged to a 17-year-old male, his name has not been identified to the press, but he's often referred to as Marlon, which is a pseudonym. Lavella did not know Marlon. She had never seen Marlon before in her entire life, so why is his ID in her house? Her neighbors had seen him before, though. The day of the murders, a few eyewitnesses came forward to say that they saw Marlon heading towards the McGuad residence. And it wasn't just neighbors. A store owner that was asked said Marlon came in and asked him which house belonged to the McGuads. A motorcycle driver said that he even drove Marlon to the McGuad house that day.
What?
So the police, they finally have their first big lead. And since Marlon's ID was found in Janice's room, they bring her in and they start questioning her. And when I say questioning, I mean that in the lightest sense possible. They're not interrogating her. They're just like, hey, we found this ID in your room. Do you recognize it? Do you know who this person is?
Wait, are they suspecting her at this point? Oh, okay.
They're just like, oh, we found this in your room. Maybe it's Louise. Maybe Louis had a friend, but we just want to know if you know. Just simply asking questions. And she's like, yeah, I know that person. They're kind of taken aback. I don't think that was the answer that they were expecting. They're like, oh, you know this guy? Yeah, I know him. And she breaks down and she says, I had something to do with the murders. In that interrogation room, in the presence of a lawyer, Janice admits that she and one other accomplice were the ones that murdered the McGuad siblings. Look, the admission itself was never released. All we know is that she admitted to it. But we don't know how active of a role she took. We don't know if she participated in the physical killing. I think most people suspect that she absolutely did, but we don't even know who her accomplice was, beyond the fact that everyone calls him Marlon. And that's not even a nickname. That's just an online pseudonym for him.
But is he caught though?
Yeah. So her and the 17-year-old, they're both caught. We know that he's 17. He works for the church. He worked as the person that sets up the church hall before service begins. And that's really the extent of what we know about him. We don't even know how the two met, what kind of relationship that they had. Netizens suspect that they were dating, which normally that sounds like a good theory, right? But it's weird because Janice's Facebook, she had pictures with another guy that she would refer to as her boyfriend, and it's not Marlon, apparently. Speaking of Janice's boyfriend, the police were able to track him down. They questioned him, make sure that he's not involved somehow. He wasn't. But he did say something that struck me as really weird, really interesting. He said that he saw Janice's Facebook post that day of her freaking out that there were intruders in the house. He saw it. He called her. She actually picked up the phone. But she didn't answer. She didn't respond. It was just silent on the other line. He didn't hear any strange noises or anything like that, so after a few seconds of silence, he just hung up. He assumed that nothing really bad was happening, maybe she was being dramatic. Okay, so this was odd to me. It strikes me as so strange. Either this guy is a really boyfriend, the world's worst boyfriend, or maybe Janice has a history of making bizarre claims or being dramatic. It's just really strange behavior. I can't imagine a world where your loved one or anyone posts like that on social media and you're just like, oh, well, it was silent when I called them. They're probably fine. Unless it's frequent, I don't know. The police immediately track down Marlon. They find out that he has a record. He was caught with illegal drugs not too long ago. And there wasn't even a chance to deny his connection with the McGuad murders because they found Gwen's phone in his bag when they arrested him. Now, this is where the case starts getting really, really strange. So at first, this was looking like a final girl situation, which, if you guys know the final girl trope, it's a trope in slasher movies, horror movies, where one final girl at the end survives and she either confronts the killer or she lives to tell the tale. So a lot of people thought that this was like a final girl situation. But it went from that to being compared to the movie Orphan. Do you know which one I'm talking about? It's about this husband and wife who adopt a 9-year-old girl after they lose their baby. But the 9-year-old turns out to be a 33-year-old woman who is just hell-bent on killing the entire family. Side note, I know the movie Orphan was very controversial. A lot of adoption groups hated the depiction of murderous adoptees, and I think that there was even speculations that it affected adoption numbers for like a year or two. I don't think I can really give input on that or anything involving adoption because I don't know, I guess I was always in the belief that adoption is really good, but then recently I was seeing TikToks of adoptees saying that they feel a lot of resentment towards adoption centers and groups and their adoptive parents, and I'm like, okay, I know nothing about this world to say anything, but this case has been compared to the real life Orphan. And I just want to put a disclaimer. Just like any other case, there's bad people everywhere. Like, you're going to take a group of people, you're playing a numbers game. There's going to be an evil man, an evil woman, an evil adoptee, an evil religious leader, an evil politician. They're all kind of evil in that little area, but you know what I mean. So don't take this case or any case as like, oh, this is why I'm scared of these people or these situations. So anyway, people pointed out the similarities between this case and the movie. Both girls were adopted by a family that was kind-hearted, financially stable. Both girls disguised their hatred and jealousy with like this super fake, sweet facade. But the similarities kind of end there. Janice is not an adult. Janice was a minor when she committed those crimes. So she was a child who killed 2 other children, just so that she could be the only child left.
Is that it? That's it?
That's the theory. We're gonna get to it. So, I mean, again, I do see why people keep comparing the 2 cases. It's human nature to draw these connections, but I will say, unlike the movie, Gwen and Louis were very real. Like, these are real people. So the McGuads thought Janice was a troubled orphan, looking for a chance at a better future, right? That's what they thought. But she wasn't even an orphan. Her parents weren't dead. They didn't abandon her. They weren't gone. In fact, she was still in contact with her mom at the point that she was adopted by the McGuads. Okay, Janice was born to a pretty rough environment, though. That much was true. Her parents, Michelle and Juanito, they didn't have much. Most of their meals growing up as a family consisted of just eating sweet potatoes, not even 3 times a day, like maybe once every 4 days just to feel full. Sometimes they would eat sweet potato leaves if they didn't have any more sweet potatoes left, or they would ask their neighbors and beg them for rice or eat almost rotten bananas. So Janice did not have a normal childhood. She was never carefree. Her dad was always getting drunk and upset that they didn't have money. And Janice was found on a boat in 2013. Now, it's hard to say if she was abandoned, like she claims, or if she left her family willingly. But she's found on the boat. She lies about not having parents. Maybe she was embarrassed. Maybe her parents were dead to her after everything that happened. I don't know. I think this part we can sympathize with, right? Like her childhood. And maybe even the fact that she lied to everyone about her parents abandoning her. In a way, maybe she did feel abandoned by them. Either way, it's speculated that she just wanted to be taken in by the McGuads. But all this trauma, all this hurt started resurfacing when she saw how loving the McGuad family was. She saw how they doted on Gwen and Louis, and they protected their kids and loved them and helped them grow into good people. And Gwen was beautiful, smart, kind, and it's suspected by netizens that Gwen was everything that Janice wanted to be. And so the more comfortable that Janice got with the privilege that the McGuad family could give her, the less content she was getting. The McGuads were loving, but they were strict. So when Janice was adopted, she got her own house duties and chores, just like Gwen and Louis had. And this isn't some like Cinderella situation where they're giving her all this work and they're like, you're the adopted kid, you better do it all. The McGuads were fair. The problem, though, was Janice was used to living by her own rules now. She just wanted all the positives of living with the McGuads. She didn't really care for the negative parts. She also saw how much the McGuad parents adored Gwen and Louis, and she didn't like that. But the crazy thing is, they gave Janice the same love. Like, from the minute that they adopted her, Janice was treated like a member of the family, to an extent where people around them thought that Janice was a cousin that they had taken in. But Janice was not content. She just wanted all of it. Mr. McGuad thinks that's the reason his children are dead. He said, based on her confession, she was jealous and envious, and she hated our daughter Gwen because of the love we showered her with. But the netizens are confused because even if she saw all the love Gwen is getting, she also has love. Like, love is not a finite resource. How can someone be greedy enough for something like parental affection to kill their siblings? To add weight to the theory of this motive, remember how she called the McGuad parents mom and dad for the first time the morning of the murders? Mm-hmm. Now in hindsight, that could allude to her jealousy and her belief that she would soon be their only daughter. Yeah. And I think it's the feeling of maybe Janice felt like she could never compete with Gwen and Louis because these are the birth kids. And so maybe she felt like the only way to truly be their daughter was to get rid of the birth kids. So Janice admitted to being involved in the murders, and the theory of why she did it is still being debated, but I feel like up until this point, even for the McGuads, it felt, okay, it doesn't feel excusable or even understandable, but from a psychological standpoint, it seemed, like, you know what I mean? It kind of made sense psychologically. Not in the sense that any murder makes sense. Like, all murders are senseless. But I guess psychologically speaking, everyone was like, I think I can connect the dots. I think I see where this is going. Everyone's like, oh, she's feeling this intense jealousy, never having loving parents. She wants all the love to herself. She's intensely jealous. This is the only way to not be in competition with the birth kids. She gets them out of the picture. That's what we thought. And then the police find text messages in her phone. They're in Tagalog, but they've been loosely translated to English. The identity of the person she's texting has not been released, but we can kind of assume that it's Marlon. In the text, Janice says, there are 7 people I want to kill. I won't tell you who they are now because you might report me, but this is all I have left to do before I can finally get the freedom I want. He texted back, don't do it yet. Think about it first, then do it when you learn how to. They both laugh, and she texts him back, I think I can do it now. Tell me, do you think anyone would still take me or accept me if I ever do kill someone? Isn't there a saying that no matter how big your sins are, even if you killed someone, the Lord will still forgive you? You just have to ask for it, right? Hell, I mean, even soldiers kill people, so I should be allowed to. You're crazy, Janice. But for me, it's okay because I have someone special who will still love and accept me even if I do end up killing someone. Janice says, I'm being serious. I want to be a Marine. Yeah, she wanted to be a Marine, okay? And he says, soldiers don't kill people who wouldn't kill them first. I just want to finally be happy and do what makes me happy. Same. I want to not worry about the people around me anymore. Janice gets upset and she says, whatever, if you don't want to do it with me, then I'll just find someone else who will. I just can't take my surroundings anymore. It's not healthy for me. Same. Haha. Don't you have anything better to say than just same? Anyway, can you imagine it? I think it'll be fun to kill someone. The other person asks again, who do you want to kill? Let's make a list. I don't want to tell you though yet, because you might report me to the authorities.
This is all while she was living with them?
Yeah. So I don't really know if I believe in this whole, like, I wanted to be the only loved one. Not that that's even more excusable, but I feel like there's a financial motive, there's something. On December 16th, 6 days after the murders, both Janice and Marlon were arrested. They weren't sent to jail because they're minors. They were both taken into basically like a juvenile facility. And,
Wait, so what's going on with her mom? You're saying she's still talking to the mom?
yeah, her mom has no idea what's going on with her. I guess the mom is like, okay, you're just off to fend for yourself, and they would just keep in contact through Facebook. So her mom was a mom. Speaking of Janice's mom, she would actually meet with the McGuad parents. She would look for them, and she ran into them at Gwen and Louis' cemetery. So Michelle, Janice's mom, approached them, and she got down on her knees and said, I'm so sorry. Every time I see their photos, I can't hold my tears back. I feel how you feel. Lavelle lifted the woman back into a standing position so that they were eye to eye, and she said, you don't need to kneel. If only I could make you feel how painful it is, but I don't have the courage to do that. All I want and all I'm asking you is maybe you're the one person that can get her to tell the truth of what really happened. Michelle, Janice's mom, tried to go meet with Janice, but she was not allowed to see her. So the killers were tried separately. So they were tried for the murder of Louis and for Gwen separately. One for Louis, one for Gwen. And when the first sentence came out, it was insane. Oh, speaking of, while they were at this juvenile center, they're provided with like activities. It doesn't even seem like prison. They're going through therapy. They have activities to keep them not bored. And while they're at the center, Janice, for lack of a better word, she gave everyone there the creeps. She would just sit in her cell quietly, never made small talk, no interest in anything, just sitting there watching everyone. The other kids there were so scared they asked to be transferred to a different room. So the first sentence came out, and the 2 killers would receive 10 years each for the murder of one McGuad sibling. So there was still another trial left, but the public and the McGuad parents, they were outraged. Like, how can someone get only 10 years in prison for taking another life, for taking the life of a child? It said the sentence was light because in the Philippines, the criminal age of responsibility is 15, meaning if you're younger than 15, you get no legal liability, just rehabilitation, but Janice was 17. So between the ages of 15 and 18, the criminal sentence would be rehab until they reached 18. Basically, they're going easy on them because they were minors when the crimes happened.
That's freaking crazy.
Yeah, the McGuad parents were not happy at all with this sentence. Neither was the public. Cruz and Lavella, they started giving media interviews, talking to officials. They went on national TV, and They just wanted to put pressure on the judicial system. Lovella admitted something really heartbreaking in these interviews. She said that because of her religion, she was actually willing to forgive Janice. She said she was trying to be understanding, and she felt like Janice, in her eyes, was a victim in her own life. You know, a victim of the system, a victim of circumstance, poverty, the lack of education. She said she wanted to forgive Janice. I mean, this woman is so strong. But then one day, Janice was taken into custody, and Lovella was there, and the two made eye contact. Janice was looking at the woman who gave her love and support and who treated her like her own children. She looked at the parents of her two victims, and her face was completely blank. No remorse, no guilt, not even anger or sadness or confusion, just cold indifference. And that was when Lovella changed her mind. She said, "We were so proud when we adopted Janice because we thought God was using us to help this young girl. It was a blessing, but then this is what we get." Then she turned and she addressed Janice through the screen and she said, "Is this how you repay us after all we did for you? Does Gwyn deserve this after convincing us to take you in?" After seeing how little Janice cared about killing Gwyn and Louis, Lovella no longer wanted to forgive Janice. There was a lot of outrage sparked because of this case. You know, one of the arguments was recently the age had been raised from, the age of criminal responsibility had been raised from 13 to 15 in the Philippines. So a lot of people were debating that. People were debating the fact that Janice was taken into basically CPS in the Philippines and they didn't do anything. So they said that Janice was produced as a killer by the system. Like, they should have been able to support her in a way that she didn't have to kill someone, that she didn't have to end up in this situation. And another thing is, they were just kind of confused. If Janice had a mom, CPS didn't know that, and they legally let the Magwads adopt her? Like, that's crazy. So finally the day comes. Janice and Marlon receive the second sentence. And for the murder of the second Magwad sibling, both of them would receive 22 years in jail. So with this sentence and the last one combined, the killers would spend about 32 years in prison, no chance of parole. And the sentence isn't huge compared to other cases we've covered, and the Magwads weren't satisfied with the final verdict. Their children were dead, but the killers would be able to walk out of prison in their 50s. They would have half their life left to live. Half a life that the Magwad siblings would never get to have. The Magwad parents, they went to therapy and they are in their healing process. They've opened up a restaurant in remembrance of Gwyn and Louis. They opened their doors August of 2022. They painted the walls like this beautiful red and yellow color and they named it Casa M&M. They serve rice dishes and even offer like a dessert bar. So now everyone that eats at this restaurant, they have a chance to experience just the love and the warmth and the compassionate nature of the Magwads. And despite all the hurt, the Magwad parents seem to be doing as best as they can be. I think they're finding a lot of strength in their community. And I just hope one day they find happiness again. And that has been the viral case of the Magwad murders. What are your thoughts? Please stay safe. I'll see you guys on Sunday for the mini-sode. Bye.
And the only witness to that is going to be a guy named Dale who takes a quick picture of it on his russet potato that he has now converted into a camera. And to be fair, maybe the aliens, they could be flying over Times Square and we just don't see it. But the concept of it is interesting. Why always in the middle of nowhere? Why do aliens choose to fly the routes that they choose? It's almost like if you want to go see an alien, you have to go to the middle of nowhere, where you least expect it. And for Mateo, the place that he least expects to see something out of the ordinary, out of this world, is the local pizza shop. Mateo is driving to town. It's a town called Nuremberg, and this is in Germany. It's about 2 hours from Munich. He's in the driver's seat. His friend that he dragged along for no reason other than the fact that he did not want to go on a lonely road trip is sitting in the passenger seat. They start driving, and it's towards this highway ramp where there's like a little pizza shop. It's a local pizza shop. Everybody knows this pizzeria. It's not like the most delicious pizza in the world. It's not like the hottest restaurant. It's just been around for a while, and the locals like it. As they're driving past this restaurant, Mateo glances out the side of his window, and in that exact moment, he sees something. And his friend's head in the passenger seat almost hits the dash because Mateo is slamming on the brakes, and his friend is like, "What the hell is that?" Mateo barely responds. He just says, quote, "Screw Nuremberg. There's something more important right now. He does the quickest U-turn he can physically manage. He pulls right up into the lot of the pizza restaurant. It's honestly a surprise that he puts the car into park because he's just flying out the driver's side door. He walks straight up to a girl with very long dark hair standing in front of the pizzeria. She looks very like skittish. Her eyes are really big and she's staring at him and he's staring at her and she's staring at him. And he says the first thing he asks her is, Are you dead?
What?
She's staring at him and she responds slowly, I don't know. And then she runs away. Mateo jumps back into his car and he's gotta follow her because she's not supposed to be here. I mean, she's not supposed to be anywhere. She's supposed to be dead. I'd like to thank today's sponsors who have made it possible for Rotten Mango to support the Immigrant Legal Resource Center, a nonprofit focused on immigrant civic engagement, education assistance, and local policy interventions to protect the rights of all immigrants. This episode's partnerships have also made it possible to support Rotten Mango's growing team, and we'd also like to thank you guys for your continued support. As always, full show notes are available at rottenmangopodcast.com. Disclaimers. There are brief mentions of DV self-exit in today's case, so please watch with caution. Today's case also takes place in Germany, so we had help from our translators to navigate the language barrier as we were researching. We do our absolute best to ensure everything is represented accurately, but do keep in mind that all statements and quotes have been translated and then may even be condensed for brevity. So with that being said, let's get started. Before the dead woman even has a name, they already have a suspect. Everyone in town has pointed the finger at who they think they did it. They're tagging him in Facebook posts about the news. The dead woman found in the car, he's the one that did it. And his name is Rowan. They want Rowan to know that they think it's him before he goes down for it. I knew it before the cops did. Those are a lot of Facebook comments, which is exactly how Rowan ends up in this all gray room sitting on a small square table. The squareness is really inconvenient for him because he has one officer sitting on the left, one officer on his right. It's very suffocating. I mean, they couldn't get a bigger table. I'm sure the size is likely the intention though. Usually when the local town starts tagging, "This is the killer," in Facebook comment sections, I mean, the police have a picture of who it's going to be, and Rowan does not fit that picture. He's young, like very young, early mid-20s. He looks fit, he's well groomed, he kind of has this soft energy to him. He kind of looks like an Instagram model. I mean, not that that measures someone's morality. If anything, it probably decreases the morality, but like, it's just not what detectives are expecting, especially because he came in here voluntarily. The detectives were looking for him, and he said, "I will come to you." And that is how for the next 4.5 hours, they're sitting in this gray room together on a square table, and the female detectives are sitting on either side of him. And the first question they ask Rowan is, "How are you?" He looks at them. "You know what? I feel an absolute emptiness and utter chaos inside." That's a direct quote. For the past 24 hours, Rowan says he was scared to go outside. Everyone in his phone is texting him, sending him social media posts, writing things like, "You're a wanted man. They're gonna want your head for this. You're gonna go down for this. So did you do it? Did you kill her?" So yeah, I mean, he's seen better days, okay? But why would everyone accuse him of killing the girl that was stabbed 56 times to death in the back of her car? The car was parked on a residential street. It's like one of those tree-lined residential streets. I mean, was the car parked in front of his house? Did he leave fingerprints? Why does everyone think it's Rowan? It's because the woman that was found dead is Sherry Ben Kay, but they call her Sherry, and it's his ex-wife. They met in 2015. It's kind of like one of those meet cute dramas. He's explaining to the officers. It was at a subway station. Rowan is going up the escalator and Sherry is walking down the stairs right next to it. And he says, quote, "It's a very special moment for me. I mean, I saw this girl, beautiful. Her hair was so beautiful." They make eye contact. The rest is history. But now Sherry's parents are adamant that Rowan had something to do with their daughter's death. They just know it. The detectives ask him, "Why do you think that they think you're the one who did it?" It's a really, really long story. This all starts unfolding less than 24 hours ago. 23-year-old Sherry tells her parents that she's gonna go see her ex-husband, Rowan, at Rowan's house. But by 10 p.m., she's still not home, and everyone in the family, probably everybody in the town, knows that Sherry and Rowan's relationship, ex-relationship, not good. Not good at all. So whatever they're meeting for could not have gone well if she's still not home. She's also not picking up her phone. Sherry's parents start getting anxious. They're thinking, but it's still Rowan. Like, there's no way that he could do anything. I mean, They jump into their car and they start driving the road that Sherry would have taken to get to Rowan's house. And in the middle of a residential tree-lined street, they stop the car because they're like, isn't that her car? Isn't that not Sherry's Mercedes? They park the car in the middle of the road. They jump out and they start looking in the car. This is not where Rowan lives. It's like on the way to Rowan's house. So it's very weird. Like, it looks like Sherry's car. It has the same tinted windows, but like maybe it's not her car. So they stop, they get out, and the front is empty. It's a E-Class coupe, E300. It's kind of relevant because the back windows are much smaller and they're tinted extra dark. So nobody's in the front, but now they're trying to peer through the back. They're cupping their eyes. They're like sticking their face as close to the window as they can. And they're like, it's Sherry. Sherry's in the back. They see in the back seat, there's a woman with long brown hair. She's laying just like splayed out on the back seat, on her back. She has a jacket covering her, but you can see her hair. You can see that she's just laying there and she's not moving. It's not like she's taking a nap. Sherry's parents start pounding on the window. One of them starts with all their strength, just trying to brute force open the door. It's locked. The car key isn't inside the car, which is weird because if this is Sherry's car and Sherry's inside the car taking a nap or something, would the car not unlock? By this point, you know, it's a small residential street. Neighbors have started coming outside. They're wondering who the hell is screaming. A lot of them are angry until they see Sherry's parents and they're like, oh, okay, we have no right to be angry. Something bad is happening. We gotta help. Some of them are coming up trying to smash the windows with Sherry's parents. Someone tries to break in through the passenger seat. Someone's trying to crawl under the car. Like, someone's calling 911. It's chaos. And then the police arrive. They smash open the car window, unlock the car, and they create this like human barricade as they carry Sherry out of the car and immediately place her on the ground. Neighbors, the quick thinking ones, they're also creating a wall in between the police and Sherry's parents. Because Sherry is gone. She's drenched in blood. Her entire body is covered in punctures, stab wounds, all around her chest, neck, face. Her face looks like she's just been completely torn apart. It would make more sense had she been mauled by an animal, but it's clearly much more sinister than that. Like, there are clear knife puncture wounds. From neighbors' accounts, Sherry's mom is uncontrollably screaming, trying to fling her own body through the neighbors, through the police so that she can get to Sherry. Other neighbors, new neighbors, they start running out of their house because they see some sort of commotion. And they say that it was a really difficult sight. When they run towards the crowd, you just see some of the neighbors are standing there with a very somber look. One person at the scene says, the paramedic who was on site, the one who had actually attempted resuscitation, struggled for, instance, to place the breathing mask over her mouth because her face was so utterly destroyed by stab wounds that the device simply could not create a proper seal. It was clear that this is no longer a living body. At the scene, Sherry's dad is announcing while his daughter is on the ground, Rowan did this. I just know that he has something to do with this. And now Rowan is sitting inside this police interview room. Why would Sherry's parents think that he's involved? Rowan tells them everything about their relationship, Sherry getting pregnant, her parents, the soap incident, everything in between. And then he tells them, you have to understand, I was with Sherry for 7 years. I went through a phase where I was so desperate for revenge, was driven by vengeance. I was really scared that either she would hurt me, I would hurt myself, or that she would force me to hurt her. After 4.5 hours, everyone in the interrogation room decides it's time for a break. Rowan is not formally under arrest, so he asks to go outside to smoke a cigarette. And as he's lighting up his cigarette, taking his first quote, I took a deep drag, the female officer walks out and she's got like a weird look on her face. And she just says, she's alive.
She's alive?
Yeah, like what do you mean she's alive? He just got grilled for the past 4.5 hours because they thought he killed her. What do you mean she's alive? They confirmed that Sherry was just now found alive, caught on CCTV camera, a dead woman walking, or at least she was supposed to be dead. Rowan says in a very confused state, like, Sherry's alive, but then another girl is dead. Yes. But then who is the other girl? And why was she found dead in Sherry's car? It seems like a modern book trope. You meet your doppelganger and they slowly come into your life and they decide, I think this is my life now. And they do whatever it takes to slowly drive you crazy, isolate you from your loved ones, and then one day you go missing, you come back, you knock on the door, and a woman who looks just like you opens the door and she claims that she's you. She's married to your husband, your kids call her mom, all your friends think that she is you, but not only that, they like her better than they ever liked you. What the hell is going on, okay? That seems like a new and fresh trope, but it's actually a trope that's been around for hundreds of years, because there is terror in the idea of being replaced. I think the fear that identity makes someone unique is not unique at all is a big fear. That your identity and your life can be studied and then someone can rehearse it and then they can just take over your life by pretending to be you as if like it's just a jacket that you can put on. Even the classics love this trope. Dostoevsky wrote Double, where the main character is like this meek government clerk and he meets a man who looks exactly like him. Same face, same name, same everything, same job. Everyone loves him. Nobody likes the main character, but everybody loves him. So his double doesn't just steal the main character's life, he lives the main character's life better. Sometimes the doppelganger and the main character, like Edgar Allan Poe's William Wilson, the main character is being stalked by a double who shares his name, face. They even have the same birthday. The doppelganger just keeps ruining the main character's life and reputation, sleeping with married women, pretending to be him, conning people. Eventually, he has enough and he stabs the doppelganger, only to find out it's just himself. Sometimes the doppelganger is you. Sometimes the doppelganger is very real and you have to run for them. And sometimes it's a hostile takeover. Sometimes you see someone who looks just like you and you think, what if I took over their life? Imagine you meet someone who looks identical to you. Nobody would ever be able to tell you apart. But they're an Oscar-winning actress living in a mansion with an infinity pool and a husband who chases her around just to get her affection because he's a dog on a leash for her. Her friends are super supportive. They all have a book club where they read nonfiction books about how to better themselves, but not in the annoying way. In the way that they just want to show up as better friends for one another. All of her bills are on auto pay. She doesn't even need to know how much the electricity bill is every month. She takes spontaneous trips to Tokyo for cherry blossom season. And all you have to do is kill her to take her life. Do you do it? Most people are going to say no, but I think maybe like most people should have a few glasses of wine and think about it at night in a way that's non-judgmental. It's just part of human nature. Some people will be a little bit more honest with themselves of, I might at least think about it. Which is why the new secondary feeling around doppelgangers is, it's a death omen when you meet yours. Because you're not supposed to meet them. It's like a glitch in the universe. When you meet someone who looks just like you, exactly like you, something really bad is going to happen to you. Because one of you has to die. I mean, both of you can't be alive, right? That's the omen. But what are the odds that you run into someone who looks exactly like you? I mean, it's likely very, very low. Even with social media, you have people who look similar, but I've never seen two people where I'm like, no, they could literally take over the other person's life. They're identical in every sense of the word. Their loved ones would never know. So what are the odds that you come across your doppelganger? But then what do you do when someone who looks just like you messages you on Instagram and wants to meet up? A total of 26 messages are sent out to 26 people who could all pass somewhat as doppelgangers. Not really, but kind of. They're all in their early 20s. They've got dark long hair, specific facial features. They're between 5'2", 5'4" in height, brown eyes, dark hair, olive undertone skin. To say they look identical would be a lie. But if you take off your contacts and you take 3 shots of tequila and you sit on a vibration plate on the highest setting while everything is shaky and blurry, and you see a photo lineup of the 24 people, you could potentially mistake a few of them as being each other. They all have similar features, but so do like half of the world. If you actually study their faces, they don't actually look alike, but that's okay because perfection is not what Sherry is looking for. Khadijah is one of the 26 girls who receives a message. A lot of people online have been calling her a beauty blogger, and she certainly is beautiful, and she certainly has a high interest in makeup. She also posts on TikTok and Instagram, but a lot of her friends don't love that title because just the negative connotation, it almost dumbs her down. Khadijah worked at a cafe, she worked at a restaurant. Her best friend that she grew up with says that she was always someone who had a knack for languages. She just learns languages so quickly, so she wanted to become an interpreter, get married, have kids of her own. That was her dream. And then 23-year-old Khadijah gets a message, and it's going to lead to a series of events that is now called the doppelganger case in Germany. Sherry She is not living the life that she's always wanted. I mean, who is? But like, Sherry isn't someone who likes to just sit there and accept her fate. Is it her fault that her family immigrated to Germany when she was 7 because they were being hunted down and killed for their religion? Obviously not. But Sherry is trying to adapt. Everyone said that during school, Sherry was like the center of attention, and she very much liked male-centered attention. And like objectively speaking, she just liked to be around guys. Most of her energy was placed into which guys she could talk to after school. And then even later in life, it was all about guys, okay? And people start stating, this is very inappropriate, but people started stating that she had a very seductive behavior about her. Which, I mean, is inappropriate to say the least, but she starts dating this guy named Rowan near the end of high school, and she's at this subway station kissing him when she hears this familiar voice behind her, "Get your hands off my niece." It's her uncle. Which now would be a pertinent time to let you know that Sherry's parents incredibly strict. They do not want her dating anybody, and she's just making out with this guy named Rowan at a subway station. She is 18, but this is still very young for her family. And Sherry's uncle is pissed. And allegedly, instead of informing Sherry's parents about what he saw, he starts blackmailing Sherry. He's like, "I'm just gonna blackmail you." I don't know what he's getting from Sherry, whether it's money or something else. I have no clue.
How do we know he blackmailing her?
A lot of inner sources close to Sherry were saying she was getting blackmailed by her uncle.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Wow.
But he starts blackmailing her about her relationship. Eventually, Sherry's parents, they find out regardless, and they urge Sherry and Rowan, then you guys just need to get married. If you're gonna date, you're gonna fucking get married. All of this only works out because Rowan is Yazidi. Yazidism is one of the oldest continuously practiced religions in the world. It's an ethno-religious faith. It's like a closed-door religion. So you have to either be born into it, you cannot convert into it, and once you leave it permanently. In 2014, ISIS launched a coordinated attack against Yazidis. The incident has been recognized by the UN as a genocide. Thousands of Yazidis were beheaded, burned alive, killed. More than that they were kidnapped and enslaved and trafficked. Young boys were forced into ISIS training camps. Young girls, some as young as 9 years old, were either trafficked or sold or gifted to ISIS soldiers. So in 2014, a lot of Yazidi believers, they fled to neighboring countries, and Germany ends up being like a huge one for the diaspora. A lot of the Yazidi community had already been steadily growing in Germany, so people are like, we gotta go to Germany. Two important things to note. One, there is a lot of tension between older Yazidi family members in Germany and younger generations of Yazidi in Germany, because there's a lot of complaint. I mean, a lot of these elders, they're like, we fled for our lives because of our religion. Like, these are our traditions. We need to stand by this. We almost lost our lives for what we believe in. And then the younger ones that are born in Germany or have been raised in Germany, they're like, I just want to scroll on TikTok and date people. And a huge problem is in the Yazidi religion, you can only marry another Yazidi, and they have to be in your caste. Yazidi has a caste system. So the top are religious and community leaders, then you have the priest, and then you have the majority. So 3 castes, and you have to marry someone in your same caste. A lot of people in Germany, the younger Yazidis, they're like, well, I don't even know if I want to marry someone who's also Yazidi because most of the people that I grow up with are not. But Rowan happens to be Yazidi, and so is Sherry. And not only that, they're the same caste. So despite the fact that the two families, Rowan's parents and Sherry's parents, do not get along, they actually really, really don't like each other, they end up getting married and they open up a hair salon together. It's mainly Rowan's. He has his own barbershop. Sherry starts doing like facials there, and sometimes she does updos for brides and these like women's hairstyles. But aside from that and a few strange incidents, like Sherry breaking into Rowan's brother's house and then taking a taser to his neck and tasing him in the back of the neck and then immediately apologizing and begging for forgiveness, other than some strange incidents like that, the couple seems normal.
What do you mean? What does that mean? Like that they got into a fight and she just decided to physically assault him and attack him?
She felt like Rowan's brother did not like her.
Okay, and that's her.
So she broke into his house and tased him in the back of the neck with a taser. And then he turned around and she started apologizing profusely.
Fascinating. So you think she tried to attack him thinking that he wouldn't find out, but turned out he saw her?
perhaps, because she does try to kill him later, but we'll get more into that in a second.
Okay.
Yeah. So from the outside, aside from some of the weird incidents that people have kind of heard about, the couple seems normal enough. And then in 2020, Sherry is barely 20 years old and she gets pregnant, but not with Rowan's baby. He says their entire relationship, he could practically smell the other men on Sherry. Rowan calls Sherry's dad very emotional. He's like, I can't do it anymore. He won't even let Sherry's very domineering dad talk. He's like, let me talk. It's my chance to talk. I'm speaking now. These are direct quotes. I have nothing to lose. I'm going to talk and you will listen. Rowan tells Sherry's dad everything, and at the end he tells him, I'm not going to do this anymore. I don't want to be with Sherry anymore.
أفجعنا من بوراندي لك من خلاص تماهيكات من شوابتن من واقوتي قبط لك من خلاص بردانة وخلاص.
And then there's just silence. And then on the other end, Sherry's dad tells Rowan, if you abandon my daughter, it will cost 3 human lives. What does that even mean? To this, Rowan just responds, then I would rather die by a bullet from you than die a little every day with your daughter.
Who are the 3 lives? Did he say?
It's gonna work out in a weird way. He never said. Now, maybe Sherry is so done with her life, she decides she doesn't want to live it anymore. Maybe she can take someone else's life, like all of those thriller books. Find someone that looks like her, that's living a better life than her, and then get rid of them and resume their identity. That's the plot of thriller books. But that's not what Sherry wants to do. Sherry has a completely different plan. Instead of taking someone else's fate, she wants someone to take her fate. She wants someone to die for her. And that is how Khadijah, a woman who knows nothing about Sherry, who has nothing to do with Sherry, the only connection between the two of them is that Sherry thinks that they look alike. I will say Khadijah is much more beautiful. But that's why Khadijah is found with her face bashed in with brass knuckles, stabbed in the face, neck, and chest, dead in the back of Sherry's Mercedes. Within days, Sherry is brought in and she's treated as the prime suspect of what the police originally thought was her murder. So she goes from being the presumed victim to the potential suspect. And by this point, a few things have occurred. When a body was found in the back of Sherry's car with dark brown hair, just like Sherry, her face is disfigured from stab wounds, but she's about the same height, the same weight. Everybody assumed it was Sherry. Sherry's parents went onto Facebook to post about her death, her murder, begging locals to help identify who they think that did this to their daughter, even though they think it's Rowan. Sherry's parents are telling the police that if they had to put their money on anybody, it would be Rowan. The whole town is ready to form a mob and go burn down Rowan, the ex-husband's house. Meanwhile, the authorities are quietly doing a DNA test because they still have to make sure that this is Sherry. And there's something curious. The body in the car has a small tattoo on their arm, and Sherry's parents are adamant that she does not have any tattoos. So either Sherry lied about getting a tattoo or something weird is happening. That, and people keep calling into the police dispatch trying to frantically explain that they saw a dead woman. There's a guy who's like, I saw a dead woman at a pizzeria, I swear. So the police decide to bring her, the town ghost, in. The victim, the suspect, we don't know, okay? All we know is that Sherry is not that hard to find. She's not deep in hiding. She's just like there all the time. And she tells the police, it's the Albanians. And the police are like, what? The Albanians are after me. The Albanian mafia want to kill me. What? Okay, so the first person that Sherry points them to is a man named Shakir. He's the one that did this. He's after Sherry. So the police go after him and they also arrest Shakir. The investigators, they start putting the pieces together. They quickly arrest Sherry and Shakir, but they still need to figure out who the body in the car is. They cross-reference with missing persons alerts in the neighboring areas, not just this town, but all the surrounding towns, and they identify the body to belong to Khadijah. And I'm only saying first names because German privacy laws identify each person as just their first name and last name's first initial. So it's like Sherbin K. Once authorities figure out that the woman in the car is Khadijah, they can actually start getting somewhere. They go through Khadijah's phone, they go through Sherry's phone, and they find a series of odd DMs on Instagram. The first one reads, "Hey love, would you like to take part in a music video? You have very good charisma and you will be paid very well. You don't have to do much. I would be happy if you would get in touch. Best wishes." And it's like a random account that has no followers. That account belongs to Sherbin K, Sherry. Just reaching out to Khadijah for a job to be part of a music video. Khadijah is like, hey, I'd be up for it, but I guess it depends on the genre of music and where it is. It's a well-known artist, and you probably know them too. Okay, what's their name? Maybe I know her. And where would the shoot be located? The shoot would be in Offenburg. You definitely know her, but this would all have to be kept secret until the song is released. They tell Khadijah the name of the singer, and it's a pretty big artist named Loon. So Loon has over 1 million fans on Spotify, almost 400,000 followers on TikTok, and Khadijah thinks it's a secret project, so I can't tweet about it. But like I could DM Loon and ask Loon directly. And the police find all of this on Khadijah's phone, and she's like, I hope you can give me an answer because I'm very, very unsure. A woman messaged me saying I'm filming a music video, supposedly for you. You know, I don't know, I'm not sure if it's fake or not. I don't want to go there and then something happens.
Ich hoffe, du siehst es und kannst mir eine Antwort geben, weil ich bin sehr, sehr unsicher. Eine Frau hat mich angeschrieben, zwecks einem Videodreh, angeblich von dir. Und jetzt, ich weiß nicht, ich bin mir nicht sicher, ob das fake ist. Nicht, dass ich da hinfahre und dann passiert irgendwas.
Loon responds to her, fake sister, don't go.
Wow.
And she responds, oh, okay, thank you. So Khadijah ignores the music video request DM, but then another one comes in from another account. This DM reads, hey, good evening. We are looking for girls to test our new lasers. Would you like to collaborate? We offer permanent hair removal with the world's fastest and most effective laser, 100% pain-free. If you're interested in permanent hair removal, you can contact me at any time. We work with a state-of-the-art medical-grade laser that costs $2,500 per session. So they're saying if you come to the salon and you get this laser treatment done and you just post about it, it's a free laser treatment. The only problem is Khadijah lives 100 miles away from the salon because they give her the address to the salon.
What, is it their home salon or?
It's Rowan's barbershop.
Wow.
And it's a 3-hour trip. So the salon manager is like, well, you know, I can pick you up from your house and then drop you off at the salon, do the salon laser for you, and then drop you back off at your house. All the DMs lead straight back to Sherry. August 17th, 2022, Sherry and Shakir get into the car together. They drive and they pick up Khadijah, and on the way to the salon, it's getting dark, the sun is setting. In between Khadijah's house and the salon, there's like this very long stretch of woods. It's like a forest. Sherry pulls over, pretending to be lost, and she asks Khadijah to get out of the car to read the road sign. And that's when Sherry and Shakir both jump out. Shakir jumps on top of Khadijah and starts stabbing her. They put Khadijah back into the backseat of the car, drive all the way back into town, park Sherry's car on a residential road between Sherry's parents' house and her ex-husband Rowan's house, and then they leave. Sherry and Shakir leave, but they don't flee. They don't skip town. They just kind of linger around until they're both arrested. Why don't they leave town? What's their plan? Who the hell is Shakir? And what the hell does he have to do with any of this? And why does he partake in this murder? Weeks before Khadijah is killed, Sherry is going around being what one can only assume is the world's most insufferable pick-me. She's going to the bars in town, getting drunk, leaning in close to all the guys that she's friends with, acquaintances with, random dudes. Would you kill for me? She keeps asking them. Some of the guys think it's a great way to try and impress her and not go home alone. So they're like, of course I would. I would do anything for you. But they don't mean it. She knows they don't mean it. Other guys are put off. Some of them are straight up looking at Sherry and going, why would someone die for you? She says things like, I can be free forever and stay with you all the time. For most people, most normal, sane people, Sherry's reasoning that she can be free, stay with them all the time, intimate relation, it's not worth killing someone for. Except apparently Shakir. That's what the prosecutors are arguing.
Arguing what?
Shakir meets Sherry a few weeks before the murder, and she's like, would you kill for me?
Oh.
And we can be together. And he just does it.
So that's why they're saying that's his motive.
Yes.
He killed for her.
Yeah. But none of these even make sense. Nobody even has an answer for why Sherry and Shakir killed Khadijah. None of it makes sense. When you're building something from the ground up, starting your dream business, I feel like the to-do list never really gets shorter. It just keeps getting longer. The right platform doesn't just help you keep up. It simplifies everything that you can do so that you can get back to doing what you actually started this for. For millions of businesses, that platform is Shopify. Shopify brings everything under one roof. So they bring in the inventory, payments, analytics, and more, all handled in the same place. A few years ago, my husband, sister-in-law, and I were able to just give back to his grandpa in a really meaningful meaningful way thanks to Shopify. He had spent his entire life making sacrifices for the family, and he just wanted to pursue his passion, which is traditional Chinese painting. It had always just been a dream of his to share his artwork with the world. And with Shopify, we were able to make that dream come true. We set up an online store called Grandpa Mingo's Art Studio for a limited time. We were just starting to dip our toes into the business. So without Shopify, we would have had no idea where to start when it comes to launching an online marketplace. And honestly, the biggest thing that I noticed was how much mental space I got back. I stopped dreading the admin side of things and remembered why we even started Grandpa Mingo's Art Studio in the first place. Start your business today with the industry's best business partner, Shopify. Sign up for your $1 per month trial today at shopify.com/rotten. Go to shopify.com/rotten. That's shopify.com/rotten. And Sherry and Shakir, they're not going to give honest answers. So naturally, people have to come up with their own theories, even the prosecutors, with what they believe happened. The very first theory to come about is the doppelganger theory. Sherry doesn't like her life. She cannot escape her religious parents. And instead of walking away and starting over or just standing up to them, she decides she needs to fake her own death to get away from them. But she can't just disappear because they will never stop looking for her. The only way to get everyone to stop looking for her is if they know for certain she's not coming back. There needs to be a body, and that person needs to look like Sherry, which is why weeks leading up to Khadijah's murder, prosecutors find in Sherry's phone, she's got multiple Instagram accounts. She's DMing everyone that looks similar, even remotely similar to her, asking if they want a free laser treatment as long as they post an exchange on Instagram. Khadijah agrees. Sherry picks her up, has her killed, and places Khadijah's body in her own car on a street that her parents are likely going to go down looking for her. They're going to find her body. They're going to think it's Sherry because Khadijah's face was so violently disfigured, and everyone's just going to assume it's Sherry because, like, who else would it be? And then Sherry would move on. What does Shakir get out of it? Probably intimate relations, love, who knows? The prosecutors are a little constantly wishy-washy about what Shakir gets out of it, but more on that later. The problem with the doppelganger theory, though, and there's a lot. The first one being, Sherry has 4 criminal defense attorneys. 2 of them are court appointed, the other 2 her parents are paying for, and her attorneys argue that everyone is being racist by stating that they too look alike and that Sherry sought out a doppelganger just by the fact that all of them have dark hair and are of Iraqi descent does not make them doppelgangers. So they're saying if they're not doppelgangers, then this whole prosecutor theory of the doppelganger murder falls apart if they're not doppelgangers. And so, like, this becomes a whole thing during the trial where everyone's like, are they doppelgangers or not? And the judges are like, it doesn't matter if they're not doppelgangers because everyone in the room can tell that Khadijah is exponentially more beautiful than Sherry will ever be, which also depicts a level of self-awareness in Sherry herself, right? But they're saying it doesn't matter if they're doppelgangers as long as Sherry believed that they could be.
Yeah, exactly.
The attorneys are arguing, but that means if they're not doppelgangers, Sherry is not faking her own death with Khadijah's body.
That's what an argument.
The prosecutors, though, still have to prove that Sherry has motive for this theory, that she desperately needs to get away from her family, and she thinks that, like, she's crazy enough that she thinks this will work. Sherry is evaluated by a psychiatrist, and she spends 4 days with the psychiatrist. She comes out with no strong diagnosis, no sign of a disorder, not that that would absolve any guilt. However, she's mentally there. She's fit to stand trial. The psychiatrist testifies in court that she does have a tendency towards conflict. She's extremely impulsive, manipulative. She believes manipulation is the best way to get what she wants. And most importantly, a part that the defense latches onto. Right? The defense is like, the prosecutors say this is a doppelganger murder. Let me tell you why it's not. During Sherry's psychiatric evaluation, it is confirmed that her IQ stands at around 86, which they describe as, quote, just shy of a learning disability in Germany. Anything below 85 is indicative of a learning disability in Germany. So the defense are like, she's too dumb. Yeah, exactly. So by this point, okay, just to fill you in, Khadijah is found in Sherry's car. Very quickly, Sherry and Shakir are arrested, and everyone in the news becomes obsessed with this case. Everyone in Germany becomes obsessed with this case. It goes to trial, and it's actually one of the longest criminal trials in recent German history, especially in this area, because There's over 100 witnesses brought in. And the confusing part is, it seems like the prosecutors kind of drift between theories of what they think happened. And everyone's just trying to figure out what the hell happened. And the two defendants, Sherry and Shakir, Sherry's always lying. Anytime she opens her mouth, you can assume she's lying. She does testify, but nobody believes her. Shakir, dead silent. Won't say a single word. So everyone's like, why would you guys do this to a random girl that you don't even know? And the only connection is you were looking for people who looked like you and you think that she looked like you. That's really the only connection.
Right.
Other than all the physical evidence, right?
There's no clear motive.
Exactly.
Why they're committing the crime.
And so every motive that the prosecutors bring about, the defense are just trying to poke holes of like, well, she's too dumb. She's too dumb to carry something like this out. So the defense are like, she barely has a brain, okay? That's what the defense is arguing, which the prosecutors, they start arguing back. We never said she was smart. If she was very, very smart, perhaps she would have realized how horrendous this plan is. But nevertheless, the prosecutors argue the motive is there. Forget intelligence for a second. Sherry has motive. Her life is falling apart. She wants to get away. So she wants someone to take her place for her death. She wants to be dead to her family. The prosecutors bring in about 100 witnesses that testify about Sherry and Shakir. And one of the most important witnesses on that list, he went into hiding before the trial because he was terrified of sitting up on the stand. He thought someone was going to kill him to keep him quiet, is the ex-husband, Rowan.
Who is he scared of to kill him?
Because remember, Sherry's dad was like, 3 people are going to...
Oh, the dad. That's right.
So he comes in, he sits on the stand, and he starts testifying about his relationship, his marriage with Sherry, and it's not looking good. Multiple witnesses by this point have already testified that Sherry is known as a gas station groupie. It's like a thing when you live in the suburbs in a lot of places, including Germany, where you have nowhere to hang out. People just like loiter in gas stations, in the parking lots. They come in, rev their engine, they pump gas, and then they park near the gas station. They get a Slurpee and a beer, and then they sit in their driver's seat, rev their engine some more, and then hang out.
So she likes to talk to guys
at the gas station. You can't even
Fascinating.
pay me to stay in a gas station for 2 seconds longer than I actually have to.
Yeah.
All the guys with their loud cars, they like to sit there, and Sherry will show up in her Mercedes, and one German reporter describes them like this, and I don't know what this means. They live in the suburbs, but they like to feel as if they're living in New York City in the Bronx.
Okay.
Like they think they're cool.
Right. Like, okay, yeah. I can see the visual. Okay.
Okay, it's almost as if this Mercedes also changed Sherry. Rowan is testifying like she has an obsession with this car. She loved this lifestyle, beautiful cars, fast driving, easy money. That's a quote. She's, helping move drugs, and it's very important for her, quote, to drive up and down the famous roads in Munich, listening to loud music and attracting attention. It's like the people that drive circles on Rodeo Drive, and you're like, well, I've seen you 20 times, okay? And he says the beginning of their marriage started out pretty normal. Eventually, Rowan starts noticing this very obvious pattern. Quote, she was always looking for arguments with me, just so she could storm out in anger. She'd be like, fine, I'm done with you. I'm not doing this anymore. Run out the house and be gone for 3 days. And she would block his number. I mean, he can't even ask where she is, who she's with, and he can see right through it. It's not like a real fight. Like, she's doing this so that she can go be a gas station groupie. And she'll go out with a bunch of guys each time. They're reportedly all in like a criminal world. If he tries to talk to her about it, it's just another way for her to start another fight that lasts 3 days so she can go out and loiter at gas stations. And that's how she ends up pregnant with some other man's child at 20, and she ends up terminating the pregnancy. Rowan tells her he's fed up with her, and he tells her, I'm gonna talk to your parents. I've already called your dad. She turns around, and this is in their apartment. She hits him on the back of the head. She starts throwing things out of the cabinets. She grabs a bar of soap and is like whacking him with a bar of soap. He flees to the bathroom and, quote, she slams my head onto the mirror. Everything goes black. I start feeling dizzy. So then when he wakes up, he's like, I can't do this anymore. I gotta pack my bags. I'm gonna go stay with my brother. He gets into the car and he starts having an epileptic seizure. The police get called out. There's footage of this. The police getting called out, him having a seizure in the car. And he says that because of this marriage, because of Sherry's violence, he had his jaw dislocated. He lost 30% of his vision in the right eye. These are all documented violent altercations. February 2018, she's convicted of aggravated assault for tasing her brother-in-law in the neck, Rowan's brother. October 2021, she tried to run her husband over with her car. November 2021, she assaulted her husband with a bar of soap and smashed his face into a mirror. There's a protection order prohibiting her from even approaching her ex-husband. By this point, a few weeks leading up to Khadijah's murder, Rowan says the families have facilitated at least 3 peace meetings. So in Yazidi religion, marital disputes are resolved through community mediation. I imagine like this is when the marital disputes become irreconcilable. Okay, side note, divorce and separation are a huge thing in Yazidi culture. Yazidism is a closed religion, so you can only be born Yazidi and you must marry another Yazidi, or else if you marry someone that's not Yazidi, you get excommunicated. Some communities have loosened up the rules a little bit to say that you're no longer excommunicated by your loved ones, but it really depends. It seems as if divorce is not unheard of. It's not encouraged, but more people are open to divorce. However, if after divorce you marry someone that is not Yazidi, that could lead to excommunication. So these peace meetings, it's like when you're about to have a divorce, all the male elders from both families will have meetings and try to talk to the couple to figure out how they can resolve their marital dispute. They have 3 mediation sessions. The first 2, Rowan's like, I'm not gonna do this. Okay, your daughter is like practically certified insane. And they just keep telling him how much she loves him, how much he means to her and all this nonsense. And Rowan is still trying to save Sherry's face, but he wants a divorce. And finally at the 3rd mediation, he's like, I know what I need to say. I just need to tell the truth. He says, if a husband says, your daughter has been cheating on me, then typically the father of the wife will tell the husband, okay, like, you decide what you want to do now. And he's like, I want a divorce. And that's the last time he saw Sherry. She moved out, moved back in with her parents. And that was a huge problem for Sherry. A lot of Sherry's friends were called in to testify by the prosecutors because the prosecutors are like, the doppelganger theory. Remember, she needs to get away from her parents. Her friends are sitting on the stand and a lot of German reporters are like, this is the most insane trial that we've ever covered in our lives. These little gas station groupies are cursing at the defense attorneys, are cursing at the prosecutors.
Oh, you mean all her friends are also gas station groupies?
Yeah, and all of them are sitting, like some German reporter was like, I've never seen someone sit with their legs as wide open, you know, like guys like to pretend like their ding dong is so massive that they can't even.
You're saying that some of the guys are sitting with their legs are like reaching as far as they can.
Yeah, in a court setting is just inappropriate. But also, I think it's like
interesting.
At that point, they're like doing splits.
So these people are out here supporting Sherry.
No, they're just being called in to testify, and they just like snap at everyone.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. All right.
So Sherry is complaining to her friends. Her friends are testifying like, yeah, I saw her after the divorce, and she's complaining that her dad would only let her leave the house for 20 minutes every single day. So she goes from living with Rowan, being able to go out for 3 days at a time, be a gas station groupie.
Yeah.
And what's Rowan going to do about it? Nothing. But now that she's back with her very strict religious parents, after a divorce, they're in full control. They're not letting her out of the house. They're not letting her be a gas station groupie. They're controlling everything that she does, and she's sick of it. One witness said, I saw her in the middle of the road. She was like parked on the side of the road. All of her car doors were open. The trunk was open. So I was like, is she looking for something? I thought maybe her car broke down. So I pulled over and I'm like, do you need help, Sherry? Like, did something happen to your car? And she dramatically pulls something out. And there's a little tracker in her fingers. And she just tells me, my father, that son of a bitch. I guess she found a tracker in her car and her dad is tracking her. So the prosecutors are like, Look, she has every reason to want to get away from her family, and she can't. Then the prosecutors bring in Rowan's brother. Yeah, where, you know, the bizarre incident where she uses a taser to get him in the neck. The brother-in-law testifies, she showed up to my house. I didn't even know her really at the time. I didn't even know who she was. She introduced herself to me as a friend of my brother. She was completely distraught. She was crying, claimed that Rowan was stealing and using drugs. And then she suddenly tased me in the back of the neck with a taser.
That's their first time meeting?
Yeah.
What in the world?
And then she ran down the stairs. Then she comes back up the stairs. He doesn't even chase after her because he's like on the ground, tased. She comes back up the stairs and said, I don't know why I did that. I'm so sorry. Please don't tell anybody. And starts profusely apologizing.
And he called the...
He said, I naturally went to the hospital and filed a police report. And he says, and then they got married. And then I met her uncles. The entire family is weird. They're weird. They also hated me, the brother. They just hated me. You know, one of Sherry's uncles said about Rowan's brother, we have a plan for him. Whatever that means. Yeah, they just keep saying weird things. And Sherry blames the brother-in-law, stating, he made my life a living hell for Rowan and me. He was the one who persuaded my husband to force me to terminate my pregnancy. So Sherry is claiming that she was pregnant with Rowan's baby, and Rowan was like, that was definitely not my baby, trust me. And Sherry is like, well, your brother was the one that convinced you to convince me to terminate the pregnancy. I mean, both Rowan and his brother are like, that's definitely not true, okay? Now, Rowan's brother testifies, and then the prosecutors then bring in another guy. His name is Vulcan. He gets up on the stand, and he tells the judges, I'm the guy that Sherry paid to kill her brother-in-law, Rowan's brother. And everyone's like, what the hell is happening? He's like, that wasn't the original money-making plan, first of all, okay? So when I met Sherry, originally we were going to go into business together to open up a COVID testing center. Because, like, remember back then, you used to have to go to a testing center. They shove, like, a 3-foot-long Q-tip up your brain, like you're getting lobotomized. And then they wanted to do that. But instead, Sherry starts talking about perhaps before they do that, maybe you could kill someone first. And Vulcan is like, I should start going along with it. And the prosecutors are like, why are you going along with it? And they said, I don't know, she just seemed kind of dumb. And she had money, so he's like, I was going along with that. Sherry offers him $10,000. Kill Rowan's brother. I'll give you 5,000 euros in advance. Sherry thinks that her brother-in-law is the reason that Rowan even wants to get a divorce right now. So, you know, once he's gone, Rowan's going to be obsessed with her again. He's the one that supports this separation, so it must be his problem. The two of them, Vulcan and Sherry, they put together their approximately 7 brain cells. They come up with this masterful plan. The plan is he's going to kidnap Rowan's brother, administer date rape pills to him, change him into swim trunks, throw him into Lake Starnberg so that his death would appear to be a drowning. She tells Vulcan, all I need is photos to prove that you did murder him, and you'll get 10,000 euros. 5,000 euros in advance right now. And if successful, quote, this day will be more beautiful than any other day on earth. She also sends him an 18-minute voice message where she's enthusiastically screaming, no mercy! No mercy! Make sure you shove the pills deep in his throat!
They played all that?
Yeah, in the trial. Obviously, the testimony from Vulcan and the corresponding evidence is damning to say the least, but her attorney tries to spin it. Her attorney says, according to my client's own statement, this specific allegation of wrongdoing presents itself in a completely different light. The claim is that a man proactively approached her, not the other way around, and allegedly offered to kill her brother-in-law. That raises a distinct set of questions, entirely independent of whether she genuinely desired the act or took the offer seriously, or whether she might have subsequently withdrawn from the plan. They said a whole lot of nothing, but they're basically trying to be like, maybe she was testing him to see if he would do it. She did give him the 5,000 euros. She did. And Vulcan argues in court that he just did it to get some easy money. You know, she has money and she's also a bit stupid. That's a direct quote. He testifies that at the trial. But the interesting thing is, like, the prosecutor's like, thank you so much for testifying. So you're actually arrested for fraud. Because regardless, you took money and did not deliver a service.
You took money and you didn't kill someone?
Yes.
That's a fraud?
Yes. So they arrest him for fraud.
You're kidding me.
They also charge him with tax evasion, which is apparently a very German thing. Like, they take tax evasion more seriously than the Americans.
That's crazy. That's considered a fraud?
Yeah. Maybe he tried to get a lower deal. eventually, but he was, and
I can't believe this.
he got sentenced to, he had his own separate trial. The fake hitman had his own little separate trial, and he was found guilty and imprisoned for a year.
Wait, how is that? I don't understand. Wow.
It's probably something in their code, like their legislation.
Okay. You think it will happen in America too? I cannot imagine this
because
being fraud though.
We have very specific laws for conspiracy to commit murder. Maybe they don't have like specific laws, so this is the one that fits the best.
But what I'm saying is, let's say he never intended to kill and he still took the money. He's like, I'm just here to scam someone.
That's fraud. I think that's why they charged him with fraud, because he's not like trying to kill. So he's just a con man.
Okay, this is weird. Okay.
Yeah, it's all very strange, but they get him for fraud and tax evasion because he didn't pay taxes on the 5,000 euros he got in cash. And as if this case can't get even more confusing, the main prosecutor theory is that this is a doppelganger murder, and that's actually what it's known for just when it goes viral on a global scale. But that also kind of has its plot holes because it's an escape where nobody flees. If she got someone to be a doppelganger, killed them so that she could flee.
Right.
She doesn't flee. Sherry is literally arrested driving around leisurely through town. That's how the arresting officer describes her demeanor. If she killed Khadijah to take her place as a dead body, would she not skip town and start a new life? She doesn't do that. So then some people argue it's because she was waiting for Rowan to get arrested. She's not trying to die and disappear and start a new life. She wanted the police to arrest Rowan for her murder and then she would leave. She was gone girling him. But that also necessarily doesn't make sense because there's no indication that she was tracking Rowan, tracking the investigation. She was genuinely just hanging out. By the way, she also went back to her gas station groupies after she was dead. And they're like, aren't you supposed to be dead? And she's like, I'm in some shit. Some people are after me. They're trying to frame me. Anyway.
Yeah, this is... Wow.
It just doesn't make any sense, which then leads to a black magic theory. And this was a theory that was heavily debated in court. Eventually, the court denies it. A lot of the black magic theory comes from humans doing what they do best and kind of just being idiots. So in Sherry's car, when police search it, they find two things. Two small pieces of paper folded together, one into a triangle and then another one into a square and then taped together with scotch tape and then wrapped in foil. When they're unfolded, people discover writing on them that nobody can decipher. And one of them has a picture of Sherry and her ex-husband Rowan taped to the back, but the words, no one can decipher the words. So this theory comes about that Sherry killed Khadijah as a human sacrifice so that Rowan would come back to her. That's why she doesn't flee or escape town. She stays. When they ask about this paper, Sherry's like, I've never seen that before ever in my life, which is refuted by the fact that her fingerprints are found inside. Like after you unfold the scotch tape and the foil, it's like inside. Then there were news reports that Sherry had been online searching specifically for a magician. So all of this is coming together until they're able to find out who wrote this undecipherable words on the paper. It's a religious leader in the Yazidi faith. They're called sheikhs. She's looking online for a religious leader, but the way that they translate it is like she's looking online for a magician. Because the word they use to describe their religious leaders in Yazidi sounds like magician.
Okay.
So they're like, she was looking for a magician, dark magic. So then she finds one and the prosecutors find him. They bring him to court. They're like, tell us about this black magic that you're doing. And they're just basically talismans. So, you know, in religion, when you want to be blessed or you are looking for specific things in your life, religious leaders in certain religions will write talismans for you, you know, on pieces of paper. But the whole questioning gets weird because he's illiterate. So he wrote it, but he can't tell anyone what it means.
There's no meaning. It's just bunch of scribbles.
Yeah, and like the prosecutors don't believe that. So they're like, no, it's black magic. Just tell us it's black magic. And then he's like, no, actually, I'm genuinely illiterate. And they're like, no, we don't believe you. And then they make him try to read it. It was just like a whole thing. And then he was like, it was revealed to me in my dream. So that's why I wrote it.
What is going on?
The judges ultimately rejected the theory of a human sacrifice, which means why the hell did Sherry and Shakir kill Khadijah? Maybe instead of focusing on Sherry, the answer lies with Shakir. because nobody can figure out what he has to do with any of this. Most people believe he is the one that physically carried out the killing and stabbed Khadijah. Medical examiners say that it could have been a man, it could have been a woman based off of the stab wounds, but it's really important. So in Germany, for murder, you get a life sentence, but you're eligible for parole after 15 years. Unless there's special circumstances, and stabbing someone 56 times is a special circumstance, which means that you would be eligible for parole after 25 years. So Sherry and Shakir's attorneys are like, no, she's the one that stabbed her. And then they're like, no, he's the one that stabbed her. And everyone's just trying to figure out. And it's just, I don't really think it matters. Throw both of them in for it. Khadijah's dad says, in court, I faced my daughter's killers. I was only 10 feet apart from them. What do you want to say to Shakir? I want to eat him alive. I want to devour him whole. There are text messages between Shakir and Sherry, and the day before Khadijah is killed, Sherry is messaging Shakir things like, tomorrow is going to be wild. There's going to be a lot to do tomorrow. I'm looking forward to it. This is the night before the murder. After killing Khadijah, they both head back to Shakir's place. There's no evidence that either of them are romantically involved afterwards, but they part ways, and both of them are kind of on the run, kind of not on the run. They both stop by the gas station. Shakir goes to the gas station too to hang out with his friends. He's got scratch wounds on his arms, and he even tells a friend, I killed an innocent girl for this whore. They're like, who's the whore? Who's the girl you killed? He doesn't clarify. The brass knuckles are found in Shakir's apartment. His DNA is found on Khadijah. The prosecutors, they just keep going back and forth on what Shakir's motive to help Sherry was. I mean, this is a girl that he's only known for a few weeks. Why would he kill Khadijah for her? So sometimes the prosecutors think that it's sex. Sometimes it's money. There's no evidence that money was transferred, but maybe it could be the promise of money. Shakir is silent the entire trial. He does not testify. He never gives a defense. He never tells them, no, this is what happened. Sherry, on the other hand, she gets up on the stand and she says, let me tell you the day of the murder. My original plan was to just meet with Shakir, but he requests that I bring a can of gasoline with me. So she does. She meets up with him, he takes her phone, and then he guides her to a strange address. She's the one driving. He tells her to park the car, she does, and then a girl walks up to the car, approaches the car, and just based off the energy, it seems like the girl and Shakir know each other. Girl gets into the seat, Shakir moves to the back, and Sherry's in the driving seat, and Shakir is telling Sherry where to drive. They start driving into the forest, but out of nowhere, Shakir's like, pull over, I need a smoke. She pulls over in the forest. He goes, takes a pee. Everybody gets out so they can smoke a cigarette. Once Sherry's done, she walks back to the car to get in, but then she hears a scream. Hey! She whips around and she sees Shakir just pummeling the girl Khadijah in the face with brass knuckles. Quote, he had brass knuckles in his hand and was hitting her on the head, right on the right side. I think it was against her eyes and forehead. When I saw that, I was shocked. I fell to my knees. I screamed. I was paralyzed for a moment. I couldn't breathe. I saw him continue hitting her head. So I ran over to them, and with all my strength, I pushed him away from her, and I yelled at him to stop. She was gasping and whimpering. He grabbed my arm, dragged me to the side, and when I looked up at him, I saw his face, his anger, and the way he yelled at me, and I got scared. I thought, now it's my turn. He's gonna come after me. I took a few steps backward, turned around, covered my ears. He grabbed my arm, pulled me towards the car, and threw me inside. And then I turned around, and she's in the driver's side now. She turns around, and Khadijah is in the back somehow, lying there. He dragged her into the car. Shakir gets into the passenger seat, and Sherry says he threatened to kill my family if I didn't stay in the car. He wanted me to keep driving, but because my legs were shaking so bad, he had to hold my knee steady as I pressed on the accelerator. He is screaming at me, drive now. Then they get to the road, and at some point he tells her to pull over on a supermarket, like parking lot. He tells her to get out of the car. She gets out the car, and then she hears screaming inside the car, and he's just stabbing Khadijah in the back seat, which the police are like, actually the evidence shows that Khadijah was stabbed in the forest. But anyways, she says, I was frozen. I fell. I lay on the floor. I covered my ears. I didn't dare look. And then I looked toward the car, and I could see the two of them. It was like they were fighting. She was screaming inside the car. Eventually, everything was covered in blood. He walked around the car, threw the knife across the street. He put on a fresh t-shirt, pushed me back into the car, took Rowan's jacket out of my trunk, covered Khadijah with it. He gets in, orders me to keep driving. He had in his hand a new knife. I steered the car back onto the road. He pressed down on my leg again because I didn't have the strength. And then at the end of all of this, she looks at Khadijah's dad in court. I can't get the images of what he did out of my head.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
She spoke with confidence?
Yeah. A lot of people said it was terrifying because she was just emotionless the whole time in a very creepy way. And a lot of people testify about Shakir, and they say that he's actually a harmless guy, which, I mean, I don't know what people's perception of someone can even hold up in court. His ex-girlfriends testify like he's never had any rage or anger towards women. I don't know what any of that means, but something is definitely odd with Shakir. An inmate says that he was given a list of 13 people from Shakir, and he was told that he will get paid per witness that is killed.
Who's paying who?
Shakir is like, here's a list, and he gives it to his cellmate. And he's like, for each person that is killed before the trial, I'll give you money. That's what the inmate claims.
So he wants this inmate to pull some strings to kill some witnesses outside.
Yes. Now, Shakir's attorney is like, that's not true at all. The prison guards, they search the cell and they find a list of witnesses and their addresses with plus or minus signs next to them. It doesn't necessarily mean it's a hit list, but it is there.
What does plus or minus mean?
No one knows. Whether it could be they're going to say something positive or negative about me, or I want them dead or I want them alive. Nobody knows. And just when everyone thinks that this trial is going to wrap up, most people can't even make sense of the theory. I mean, maybe the doppelganger theory is the most relevant, and then they're just kind of dumb that they don't flee. I don't know. That's like the one that most people are going with. Everyone just thinks Sherry is dumb, but this is the theory that she thought. This is the motive that she originally had. Then they bring in, right as they're about to wrap, a man walks in to testify, and his name is Furkan. Some people call him Furfur. He's a local rapper. He says that he has a connection to all of them. He's like, I'm connected to Shakir and to Sherry and to the victim, Khadijah. He knows Shakir through a mutual friend, and he claims that he was dating Khadijah and he went back to Sherry's hotel with her. Let me explain. Furkan is an interesting character. Okay, so he mainly stakes a claim at the local club. He's not a gas station groupie, he's a club groupie, and he is described by people who know him as, quote, Furkan is trying to break into the rap scene. He's a big flashy guy with a 10-foot long cloud of perfume trailing behind him. That's pretty much what he's like. He's like, I'm here now. Look at me. So everyone, I gotta be the center of attention. Well, recently, Sherry asked Furkan to go back to her hotel with her. And there was this whole incident. This is what Furkan is testifying. He went back to the hotel with Sherry. She had a hotel room. And she's just like trying to unbuckle his pants, is trying to kiss up on him, and he flat out rejects her. He's like, she was trying to pull down my boxer shorts, and I pushed her away, and I said, piss off, you slut. Okay? Whether this is true or not, it's up for you to believe. He thinks that maybe she was upset that he was in love with Khadijah.
What?
Yeah. So some people are like, either Sherry was rejected and was upset that he liked Khadijah, so she killed Khadijah. Or some people are like, well, maybe he told her to get rid of Khadijah and then they could be together, and that's why she killed Khadijah. Regardless, the day that the investigators went to go talk to Furkan, he had gotten rid of his phone, which is very suspicious. But they state there is no evidence to link Furkan to this crime. There's no investigation into him being part of anything. But it just leads people to wonder if there's a bigger reason to why Sherry specifically went after Khadijah. Was it because Khadijah was one of the only 26 people that responded and was willing to meet up? And is this a doppelganger murder? Or is this a murder out of jealousy? Like, what is it? And I think that's why this case goes so viral. I mean, I think obviously the whole doppelganger classification of this murder and what it's most commonly called, it has all the points that make people wonder what the real motive is. But also, it's just everything about Sherry's demeanor in trial for Germans was so odd. She'll come in covering her face every time with like a packet of folders and papers. And then every break that they get, her mom is just like supplying her with snacks every day. She's laughing and giggling with her family. A lot of German reporters believe that she was actually acting quite flirtatious with her 4 attorneys as well. She kept twirling her hair. But ultimately, both of them are found guilty, which again, for Sherry, that means 25 years before she's eligible for parole. And for Shakir, it's 15 years. Khadijah's dad is very upset with Shakir only getting 15 years. He was really distraught. He says, in the courtroom, I saw things I never expected to see. things that cannot be understood with the mind. But did I see the truth? No. Some netizens have taken to point out that Sherry was delusional, thinking Khadijah was a doppelganger because it's so obvious that they look nothing alike and that they don't even compare. But with that is the doppelganger murder. What are your thoughts on this case? Let me know in the comments, and I will see you in the next one.